everyone, and welcome to the Cinematic Schematic, the official podcast of the Cinematropolis.com, your home to thoughtful conversations on film. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and today we are taking a little break to pause and discuss some of the creepiest, crawliest, horror movies of 2025 so far. So we have a few films that we're going to discuss. We're going to conclude with a spoiler-filled review of The Monkey, though, so stick around for that. In the meantime, we're also going to talk about Presence, Companion, Heart Eyes, and Wolfman, a set of assorted horror movies that tend to generate some buzz in the first quarter of the year. We'll see, just get our quick takes on each one of these films. And of course, not doing it alone. Very excited to welcome my co-host, an award-winning Oklahoma filmmaker, and frankly, you know, way more of a horror aficionado than myself, and I consider myself pretty moderately aficionized, LaRon Chapman. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. No, I'm excited to talk about these movies. Horror is my jam. So I've seen every single one of these and I have opinions about each one.
Yes. And this is why LaRon is my co-host. He has more horror opinions than me. And I mean, they're good, tasteful, thoughtful opinions, of course. LaRon, I don't want to spoil it, but you did make me sit through one of these. And we're going to... And, you know, the company was great, but boy, it was the sitting through it part was just a thing we did together. We'll talk about it more later. Also, very excited to welcome for the first time, wildly overdue, frankly, frightful film as seen on Good Trash Media, Kirsten Thurkelson. Kirsten, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Kirsten here also has magnificent horror opinions. Frankly, whether she's lighting it up on Letterboxd or the Good Trash feed, I'm always excited to hear what you think of whatever the newest horror releases are.
And I'm always excited to give my opinion, don't you know?
Are there too many opinions at this table? Never. Absolutely not. Well, anyway, it's a pleasure to welcome you. Long overdue, but thanks for taking some time to talk horror with us.
Thanks very much for having me on. Always a pleasure.
We may have to change our slogan to, the Cinematropolis, we got opinion.
We got opinions. This is just the 2025 rebrand. Yes. We got opinions, if you weren't sure. Also excited to welcome for the first time, he's a friend of the show, co-founder of a movie, like a midnight double feature movie series we'll talk about called Grime Planet. Also works over at good design creative house at Robot House Creative here in Oklahoma City. Brett Grimes. Brett, welcome.
Hey, thanks, guys. Super stoked to be here. I'm not a professional critic, so I don't know if I will have good, thoughtful opinions, but I have opinions.
You have, they're moderately thoughtful. No, I'm just joking. Very thoughtful, of course. No. So Brett and I have been talking horror movies for a couple of years now, and just looking for an opportunity. Like basically every time we end up at a party together or at a Grime Planet together, you and I at least spend a good 15 to 20 minutes throughout the evening just talking about what's the stuff we've been watching. So
I look forward to it every time.
Likewise. And I said, let's just make it official. Let's put it on the podcast and see what fireworks may ensue.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, we have so much to get to, so we're going to jump right into it. But before we do, just want to remind you that if you have horror movie opinions, first up, you can follow us on our social media channels, Instagram, trying to be a little more active on actual posting there, as well as Facebook, facebook.com/The Cinematropolis. Or you can just send us an email at thecinemetropolis@gmail.com. And you can leave us a rating and review if you enjoy listening to these horror movie opinions on your preferred podcast app. That said, let's jump into our spoiler-free review of the first film on the docket, Presence.
You have a presence here. It's trying to figure you out. It's trying to connect to you.
She just stopped breathing. Dead in her own bed. Can you imagine the parents finding her?
So according to IMDb, Presence is described as a family becomes convinced that they are not alone after moving into their new home in the suburbs. I feel like that's just a movie about squatters.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, IMDb.
Which might be scarier. Spoiler alert.
It's quite possible. We'll see. So, a few different things to know about Presence. Firstly, this film debuted at the 2024 Sundance Film Festival. That's right. Like at this point, a year and a quarter ago at the Sundance Film Festival, and did not get a theatrical release until January 24th, 2025. So basically, it was on a shelf for about a whole year. This is one of two films directed by Steven Soderbergh and written by David Coop, released this spring. The other being our last review, Black Bag. Check that one out if you like spy movies.
2 Soderbergh movies in this economy.
In this economy, for real. What did we do to deserve this? Checks the notes. Budget of Presence is $2 million. Okay. Okay. This economy is right. Yeah. This film stars Lucy Liu as Rebecca, Chris Sullivan as Chris, Catalina Leung as Chloe, and Eddie Madej as Tyler. Principal photography took place over 11 days in September 2023 with an interim SAG-AFTRA agreement from the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike, as you may recall. So this is one of those films that got a special exception to film kind of cross lines for the actors to finish filming. It was shot entirely from the first-person perspective, and it had a reported budget of $2 million and then grossed around $9.3 million to date, which is great. $2 million is a tiny budget, but, you know, this is more than 4 times the budget, which means it definitely made back and then some. And, by the way, if you're listening now, Presence is now available to rent VOD. Should you rent it VOD? Well, let's get into it. I'll start with you, LaRon Chapman. What are your overall thoughts on Presence?
Yeah, you know, I really actually got really swept up into this one. I was already kind of intrigued by the first-person narrative framing device with this, but I did worry if that gimmick would wear off very quickly. But I think because it's paired with this really rich, complicated, like familial drama, you know, dealing with grief and loss. And I felt like that was, you know, what really resonates really deeply here. I don't know if it's altogether successful as like a horror, you know, offering, but as kind of like an eerie, melancholy, like rumination on grief and loss and all of that, I felt like it was actually very emotionally resonant. So I was surprised how invested I was in the people that were in this film. And there are a couple of them that are kind of grating to really deal with. But I was actually very invested, at least in the characters of this. And I think that Soderbergh is such an interesting, very varied, you know, very experimental filmmaker. And with this, he's just so very curious about character. And I feel like, you know, he allows us quite literally to kind of investigate, you know, these people and kind of like, you know, be voyeurs with him for 90 minutes. And, you know, I actually enjoyed this even more upon, you know, reflection of it. So it was a different movie than I expected it was going to be, but ultimately I like the film that it is. So
I think that's good. So, you know, that happens. And I think this might be perhaps a common theme throughout this discussion. Perhaps, I don't know. I'm just speculating, where, you know, you go into movie expecting one thing, and then, you know, sometimes initially you're like, well, it wasn't that thing I was expecting, so I'm kind of disappointed. But then you're like, but that's pretty cool, right? Like, I don't know. We'll talk about more about it. So Kirsten, you know, you're on your first pass, so you haven't been on catch up with this one, right?
I have not had the chance to catch up with Presence, although it was pretty high at the top of my list of films that I wanted to catch this year. So I guess I'll be one of those VOD home viewers.
Woo.
Watch it with the lights off.
That is, unless Brett Grimes has something to say about it.
Unless you guys have terrible opinions of it, in which case, you know. We'll
Sorry,
see.
Brett Grimes, tip on the hand a little bit. So what did you think of Presence?
Oh, man. I don't like starting off the podcast being the dissenting opinion, but I think I have to in this case. I think the scariest thing about this movie for me was like the instant motion sickness that I got. And I don't actually get motion sickness during movies. My wife and I, Rory, we watched this and we actually stopped it about maybe 15 minutes in, and I finished the rest on the treadmill.
Oh,
Because
wow.
I thought, okay, if I'm like walking and can like see around me a little bit, this will be a little less immersive.
Yeah.
And then I can soak in the plot and not just worry about, you know, feeling woozy.
The
But
Cloverfield effect.
yes, for sure. And like that didn't make me sick, you know, Paul Greengrass, none of that really bothered me. But this one, something about it. It's a little too floaty, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something about that. It's not, it's it's not handheld in the way you would typically see. Like it's less, it's got that floaty, like almost like magic, sort of like energy where you're just like, I'm on cloud nine. Did I take drugs while I'm watching this sort of thing? Yeah.
Right. Am I playing Half-Life 2? It's real floaty, real loose. This movie was really sold, I think, as being very art house. And I went into that expecting that. And I think that might have been a little bit of a mistake. And it's kind of hard to talk too much about this movie without spoiling it. But I'll do my best. It's pretty pulpy, right? And especially when you get to the reveals, they're very much like B-movie, kind of goofy. There's even like a prop at one point towards the end of the movie that's revealed that I just groaned at. You guys can talk about that off air. And I wish it was a little more self-aware with what it was. And I think if it was, it would have been more successful for me. There's also some logic in the movie that I don't feel like it follows throughout. And I don't feel like there's any explanation for that other than it makes the plot work. And sometimes I can go with that, but sometimes it kind of breaks it for me, especially if it's a big pivotal climactic moment and you're thinking, well, why did something work earlier and doesn't work now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not necessarily going to disagree with any of that myself. I will say I found myself really enjoying it as an experience.
Sure.
I think it's one of those where the ride and the clever framing device that LaRon already described, where you are essentially you are first person, the ghost. And the way they explain it in the movie, without being too specific, is that the ghost itself does not know why it's here.
Yeah. That's the most intriguing aspect of it.
Right.
Is it's like, if you're like, it's different like when you're playing a video game or something, when you know what your objective is. Here, you're like, I don't really know, like you're being guided through this and you're not sure what the objective of that presence is.
Right.
And if it's a malevolent force, if it's like or if it's just curious. And so that to me is the most intriguing aspect of the kind of mystery, which I think this is mostly a suspense mystery. Than a straightforward, like, even thriller, I would say. But yeah, I found that really, really interesting about how they use the framing device in this. So.
And so I want to say that is a strength. I agree with it. For me, and it sounds like you were LaRon, this is a strength because it sort of creates this like, well, the ghost doesn't even know what the rules are, and I don't know what the rules are, so I am essentially the ghost in this scenario, and I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Obviously, you're witnessing some stuff happening that's like, this is suspect. I wish I could do something. And I will say, it does kind of create that weird tension where sometimes because you are sitting as the ghost, you're like, why aren't you doing something? I would be doing something right now. And then there's other times where the ghost does something where you're like, why did you do that? Right. So it's a fine line where the framing device worked for me a lot more than it did. I was very immersed and I was just kind of going with it. But to your point, I think a lot of these things, if you think about them too hard for more than a couple seconds, it kind of breaks apart. There are some reveals at the end of the movie where you're like, oh, that's cool, like on the surface. But then when you start to like really, if you actually think about, well, if that's what this is, then doesn't this mean 10 other things that then kind of breaks the fiction a little bit? That's not where my head went, so I'm overall positive. But I understand how that could, the inconsistent logic, the very, very loose, flimsy explanations. Sometimes it's not good enough for you to go with it, and if you can't go with it, the movie's kind of done. That wasn't me, but Brett, I can hear you and I see you, even though I don't. That was not the experience I
am here
had.
too.
Yeah.
I am a presence.
I'm a presence on this podcast right now. Or is he? I don't know.
Is he? Are we here? Where did the listener is? We are. I don't know where I'm going with that. So,
well, I have a question for you guys.
Yeah,
for you guys who've seen it. So, without spoiling it, there's a significant plot line with the parents.
Yeah.
Does that have any relevance to the film? Because it builds and builds, almost comes to a climax, and then to me, felt like it was completely dropped.
We'll have to, because I can't know that. I don't know the specifics of the plotline you're referring to. So,
sure.
And then if we say, we'll spoil it, but I am curious to know what you're referring to.
Okay, sure.
I will say this. I agree with what LaRon said. Frankly, there's the framing device is one thing that worked for me, but also there was a family drama, and I was not expecting there to be some pretty meaty family drama that felt pretty believable.
Or care about any of them. It's like that was surprising. I'll say, like, I think we have different, it seems like, takes on the ending, and we're not going to talk about the ending, but I will say that because of the ending, it went up a star for me.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In terms of like, just it hit me emotionally that moment.
It works that's the thing. It works for me emotionally, even though I think if you start to think through certain implications, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But I don't think the movie wants you to do that. And that's where I'm at. Because it did work for me emotionally as well. Yeah. It's a pretty powerful moment. Yeah. And I have to say, too, there's some weird stuff going on with Lucy Liu and her son in this movie. Yeah. Very incestuous adjacent thing.
And right off the bat, like at the start of the movie.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a thing. It might be a thing. I'm not a parent, or people who it felt kind of weird.
No, that's not a thing.
It felt very weird. Kind of in the same way there's some weird stuff happening in the season of White Lotus. But the last thing I want to talk about on this, and we can give letter grades, we have all kind of addressed the fact that this isn't necessarily a traditional horror, really. Like, and Brett, I'll let you lead on this. Like, why is that a problem for you? Because it's not. It frankly, in my opinion, it's a lot more like The Others, or not quite gothic horror, but that vibe, atmospheric horror energy, rather than it is actually scary, which for me is a plus. But like, how does that sort of shift and expectation? How did that affect your viewing experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm all for experimentation in film. I think it's important, and I think it almost switching genres from what I was expecting. That's not a problem for me. It was more just in the execution, I think, and some of the storytelling elements that took me out of it. But I think props on them for trying something different.
Yeah. Lauren, I mean, what was your take on how this film, how does it function as a horror, well or not?
I think there's definitely like a playfulness, and as you mentioned, kind of an experimentation with form here.
Yeah.
That I find interesting. But I do feel like this is more of like I don't know, like it's kind of an exploration of like human nature and human, like, like that feels, and I don't think that's what this was sold on. And so I can understand the disappointment there, especially as this being touted as like one of the eeriest movies of all time. I mean, they do that with every horror movie now, so it no longer
if it's in a horror movie trailer, don't trust it.
Don't trust it. Yeah. And then also look at it. It's always the same five reviewers.
If it says if it's screen rant, just look at the source.
Look at the source. Exactly. So I in the canon of like just horror films, I don't know where the placement of this goes, but I do find it. I think that the term, we keep using the word experimental, is really the point here, and I do think like as horror offerings, like his playfulness with the form and genre here is interesting. And so it's definitely an interesting addition to the traditional ghost story films that we've seen, and definitely will be, I think, brought up in conversation because it does deviate from, a lot of things that other movies of its kind have, So yeah, so I think your opinions about it will vary over time, but it will definitely be something that I think comes up in conversation if people see it.
I think it's memorable, if nothing else, right?
Yeah, it's memorable even in some of its flubs.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, those are our quick takes on the movie Presence. I guess the last thing to do is give it a letter grade. Lauren, I'll let you start off on this one. What letter grade would you give the film?
I quite liked this. I won't overpraise it because I do think there are a couple of gripes that I haven't even really drilled in here. But I would give this a B+ for me. I liked it quite a bit. I'd revisit it, and maybe my opinions will change as I keep watching it and seeing little maybe plot holes or what have you. But on initial viewing, I'd say a B+.
Yeah, B+. I'm going to go slightly lower with the B-. I really like a lot about it. I think, again, emotionally, it works. The character drama, the family drama works really for me was the anchor with the framing device being a cool way to sort of explore that family's trauma and how they responded to it. The reveal worked emotionally, but I don't like, I would not, logically it doesn't work. And I wouldn't like hang the hat on that for the movie. So that's why I'm giving it a B-. Especially if the reveals that you see don't work for you, it's really going to, I think, knock the movie down a couple pegs for you. But I'd say B- because overall it worked, at least emotionally. Brett Grimes, what letter grade would you give this film?
I think talking about the reveals not working for you, knocking the...
Sorry, guys.
We need to retake that?
No, you're good. Sorry, go ahead. Brett Grimes, what did you think of the film?
I think if you're talking about the reveals, knocking down a couple pegs for me, that pretty much describes my experience. I'm going to give it a D.
Ooh, a D.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
I finished it.
Soderbergh in the doghouse. You know, this thing about Soderbergh, we talked about this in our last episode. He experiments a lot, and sometimes he hits home runs, and other times you're like, well, that was cool that you tried. And it sounds like this is one of those for Brett.
Yeah, it's like this is for you, Caleb, but a Legend of Zelda movie and your Navi.
Oh.
Like, hey, wake up! You know,
a swing and a miss.
A swing and a miss. But you get at least you don't get an F because you tried. That's cool. All right. Well, that is our review of Presence. Let's move on to our spoiler-free review of Companion.
There have been 2 moments in my life when I was happiest. The first was the day I met Josh.
I'm Josh.
I'm Iris. And the second, the day I killed him.
Just relax. Remember to smile and act happy. Do they know?
So according to IMDb, Companion is described as a weekend getaway with friends at a remote cabin turns into chaos after it's revealed that one of the guests is not what they seem. Companion is the directorial debut of writer-director Drew Hancock, who had done a lot of like TV short film directing, but not feature film directing. What was notable about this film, and if you saw the trailers, you saw it in literally all the trailers, they were hanging their hat on this fact. This was produced by Zach Kreger, who is the breakout director from Barbarian, Why Is Kids You Know fame there. This film was released in theaters on January 31st of 2025, and it stars Sophie Thatcher as Iris, Jack Quaid as Josh, Lucas Gage as Patrick, Megan Searle as Kat, and Rupert Friend. Oh, gotta love the Rupert Friend cameo as Sergey. So Sergey, yeah, how I would say that. The film had a reported budget of $10 million and has grossed $36.5 million as of this recording, which is a month behind you listeners. So hopefully it's made closer to 50 by this point. The film is now available video on demand and on 4K Blu-ray. And I'll throw it to you on this one, Kirsten Thurkelson. What are your overall thoughts on Companion?
I liked it a lot. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was I thought that it explored the concepts that it introduced in a really fun way as well. I know we're being spoiler free, but I do have there's one thing that's like a little bit contentious as to whether or not it counts as an actual spoiler because it is revealed in the trailer.
In the trailer.
So
we're going to address that. Okay.
Sure.
So you know what? I said no. We're going to do a spoiler. We're going to talk about overall thoughts, and then we will talk about that spoiler after that
in a dedicated slot.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay,
so but continue. Good, fair point.
I just thought hey, first of all, it's I'll use this term really loosely. It is kind of a cabin in the woods film. I mean, you can see from the IMDb description. I always love that. I'm kind of a sucker for that whole type of setting of just like, friends in the woods, and then there's no one around, and then stuff starts getting kind of weird, and oh no, where are we going to go from here? And I thought that this was a really fun entry into that canon. So I think I would recommend it. Yep.
Oh, excellent. So we've got one fan, LaRon Chapman. I'll throw it to you. What did you think of Companion?
Yeah, I thought this was like undeniably like entertaining as a kind of sci-fi horror romp. I think it cleverly kind of remixes like tropes, themes, and like motifs that we've seen in other films that some that come to mind, like more serious ones like Lars and the Real Girl, Ex Machina, and even Megan, I think, is a pretty big, like, recent adjacent one to bring up.
This summer, Laurent.
This summer.
This bitch is back.
Megan 2.0.
Oh, yeah.
Whether we asked for it or not, we're getting it.
Oh, yeah. That trailer's money, though.
Yeah, it is money. And I am a legitimate fan of the first one. I don't know if it needs to be a franchise, but we'll see.
Everything needs to be a franchise.
Everything needs to be a franchise, guys. We need people in theaters. But it does sustain its own kind of modern meta sensibility. Aside from a few unexpected surprises that come later in the story, I don't know if this really explores, the material that it's kind of, that we've seen in other movies in a novel way necessarily. It's more just the presentation is fun and interesting. This feels more like it's fun for fun's sake than it is really trying to just like drill in a point anymore. I think there are movies that have kind of addressed the idea of, female agency and autonomy, even recently, in more like even movies that aren't about, what this character is, like Poor Things, or, like we've had conversations about that. And I do think like as a date movie, it works really well. It has fun with a couple different genres. So I come on pretty like, I had a really good time with this, and it's often quite hilarious. So I enjoyed it without thinking too much about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's a fun ride, cool remix of things you like to see.
Yes, yeah.
Brett Grimes, what did you think of Companion?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I saw this one in the theater, and I liked it a lot when I came out of the theater, and I've liked it a lot since. I've kind of rewatched the beginning half again just before this podcast to prep and notice some things I didn't notice the first time. So I think it does have a couple of clever things working in its favor. I'm also a big Sophie Thatcher fan from Yellow Jackets.
Same.
And I'm really happy to see
Heretic recently.
I was going to say, did you catch her in Heretic?
Loved it.
Okay.
She was great.
Okay. She is great. She is great.
I loved her.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she is great.
I'm a fan of Heretic. I liked it.
I liked it until suddenly I didn't, but I really liked it until that point. I still do.
Now we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's not why we're here.
Different podcast. But also, continue, Brett.
Well, I was just saying, I'm glad she has a career after The Boogeyman, which
that
was a hard watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, well, she had Scream Queen potential, and now it's gone. But no,
now we're back.
On. Yeah, she's back.
She has a strong presence.
Yes.
I really like her on camera. Yeah.
And that's probably the most smiling I think I've ever seen her do at the beginning of this movie, because in Yellow Jackets, she's pretty frowny.
Yeah, very frowny girl. She's so good at it, though.
She is. And I think this movie it really makes the most of a small cast in a small location.
Yeah.
I forgot a lot of times that, we're just at this one cabin, as you said.
It's like total of 6 people, I think.
Yeah.
6 or 7 people, which is always, when you think about it, you're like, wow, it's $10 million. It looks so much nicer than that. Well, it's because it's literally just like one location, some woods, and bunch of like small cast of crew.
And the effects were great. I thought, without spoiling anything, that it explores more relationships in interesting ways than just the one that's on the box. And I really liked that.
Yeah.
I think this is a welcome addition to, the people in single location in the woods movies. I think there's some really rich sci-fi horror concepts that it reuses and repackages in a way that's a really great time. I like Jack Quaid. He is really carving out, frankly, I like him as a performer, but he's really carving out a niche as like, he's that nice, charming guy, ? And then we watch a movie about how maybe he's not. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but,
kind of like
questionable intentions. Yeah, exactly.
Between this and The Substance, the Quaid men are getting some very interesting work to do.
Oh, exactly. The difference is I think Jack Quaid knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I don't think Dennis knows. I think Dennis is just taking paychecks.
It's real there. It's real there. Yeah.
At least I'd like to think so.
In quotations.
What I would say is it reminds me of the type of stuff that we used to get all the time, like studio programmers, high concept, simple, like modest budget, no IP. You show up at a matinee or on a Friday, Saturday night. It's a great date night. It's lean. It's mean. And we just don't get a ton of these anymore. I mean, hell, this is the kind of stuff I would enjoy before I could drive a car. I'd watch on TV all the time.
Is this what they would refer to as a quote, like a popcorn movie?
Yeah. Good old popcorn. Yeah.
I don't mean that in a derogatory sense at all.
No, I think it's spot on. We just used to get a lot of like really solid down the middle high concept movies, and it's pretty rare. It's got to be all IPified at this point, you know.
Yeah.
So all that to say, my caveat, and we're going to segue into the spoiler bit here, which is my caveat for me was the second trailer does give away a pretty integral plot twist that I really would have appreciated having not known.
Mm-hmm.
So my initial knee-jerk reaction after finishing it was, man, this was pretty good, but I think it would have been better had I not known that thing. And after letting it sit for a week, I came back around and said, no, there's a lot of other really cool, interesting, fun ideas that it's really nailing, that it didn't need that to be great, but it did in the moment felt like I'd taken the wind out of my sails.
Two things can be true at the same time.
Exactly.
Yes.
Bingo. With that said, we're going to spoil what that thing is just in case you've managed to avoid all the trailers, which is that Sophie Thatcher is a sex robot who is being rented by Jack Quaid. She's a robot. And the first trailer did not tell us that. It was actually really kind of a big mystery. Like, oh, she's putting her hand on the fire. It's on fire. She's chained to this, or handcuffed to this chair. What's going on? Oh, weird vibes. We're going to throw the Barbarian logo up there. Oh, I can't wait. What is it? And then the second trailer that came out like 2 weeks before the movie was like, oh, by the way, she's a robot. And here's the whole main plot of the movie. And again, in retrospect, knowing that did not ruin the movie, because I think it does a lot of interesting things, talking about, female autonomy, shitty men, objectification of people, complexity of relationships, and how different people are seeking different things from relationships. A lot of fun stuff I think it nails. But also the robot bit was a bit of a spoiler. Anyway, with that said, we'll open up the floor now that we can at least talk about the fact that she's a robot. Do we feel like this movie balances the sci-fi, horror, and comedy elements pretty well? Would we even classify this as a horror, frankly?
I definitely think there's a mixture of those three things happening at the same time, but I think that my takeaway when I watched it was that they had leaned a little harder into the horror, because it does lean into the lightness a lot here. And I'm fine with that if that's what I thought I was getting. But I do think, like, again, that first trailer was like intriguing in a menacing way, whereas like by the time you know what's happening, then some of the suspense is a little flattened, for me. Still a fun time in terms of like entertainment and humor and all of those things that are kind of fused into it. But as a horror film, I feel like they could have put a couple more doses in there. You know what I mean? Like just to make it a little more, I don't know.
You're thinking it's going to be a horror, and then Rupert Friend's Sergei shows up, and you're like, this is almost too light to be a horror movie.
Right.
It's so funny though.
Right. It is funny though.
Kirsten, what's your take on how this functions as a horror or not?
Well, so I honestly, that's my biggest complaint about a lot of the earlier marketing, is that it's misleading. Horror comedy is maybe my favorite genre of film. So I was not disappointed to be getting more of that. I just wish that it would have been presented in that way from the very beginning. Because I agree that the fact that she is like the big twist or whatever, I actually think that that's kind of forecast from really early on in the film. And especially by it being named companion, I think that they're expecting audience members to kind of maybe figure it out on their own, that like, oh, like companion's referring to her, and like what does that mean? And then kind of working out that like, oh, it's a little Westworld, she's a little not Evan Rachel. She's a host. she's not literally Evan Rachel Wood from Westworld, because that's a far more menacing character. I think she's Sophie Thatcher's character is a lot more innocent than that. But I didn't have a problem so much with that being revealed, because there are a lot more interesting things to figure. There's more to unpack, there's more going on under the surface. And again, we do like learn more about some of the relationships of the other folks that are at this cabin in the woods, that make it a lot more interesting and explore those themes, in a more interesting way necessarily than with Sophie Thatcher's character, honestly. But I think that was really my problem with the marketing, is that it wasn't presented as the fun romp that it wound up being. And I think, it's not that serious. There are definitely pieces that get more into the nitty gritty of like, like Blade Runner 2049 comes to mind, of like what it is to be human. And it's just like, This is a comedy. Like you're not getting that level of depth, and that's fine. But I think that it was an odd choice. I don't know. Maybe they were trying to get more of the horror audience. Like
I feel
seated,
like they had Zach Kreger as a producer, and they're like, how do we sell that? You know?
And I mean that's the other thing. This movie is not Barbarian either. I mean, I
think to your point, like with the Zach Kreger thing, that's definitely like. Probably the most egregious thing they did, because you associate Barbarian with the element of surprise, and then they spoil the surprise. So it's kind of like
that might have been part of it.
That might have been part of the like, oh, is it gonna be like that? Because why else would they put his name up there? And it's not quite. It could have been like that, maybe. But
I mean, to your point though, I was more frustrated by the second trailer. But in retrospect, the first trailer, to your point, I think really did kind of not missell it, but it was not exactly selling what it was offering, actually, in a lot of ways. So, I mean, it was definitely not as scary as I thought. It has a lot more in common with Ex Machina, I think is probably the most.
That one definitely came to mind too.
It's like a horror it's like a romantic comedy version of that movie, sort of not as heady, but has a lot of the same ideas.
Calling this a rom-com is really funny.
Yes.
Is it romantic?
It's my kind of rom-com.
I mean, actually, a rom-com. Yeah, that's funny. There is romance ? And there is situational comedy.
Yeah.
There's a romance in this that I actually really cared about.
Yeah. Same.
So Brett, what's your take on how this movie functions as a horror or not?
I think marketing's pretty tough, and I think it wasn't marketed as a fun romp, like we said. That didn't work against it for me. It was a pleasant surprise, and I thought it did a good job of maintaining the suspense throughout, especially for a movie that in its opening lines kind of foreshadows the very end. But I still really cared about Iris throughout the whole thing, and I wanted to know. And then, like we said, there's other relationships that I cared about, and I wanted to know how those would get resolved as well. It reminded me of a little bit of a movie that I think would be a great double feature. I think Companion would have to be the second, but I think the first would be Anora.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
A lot of similar themes, but also a surprising fun romp, right? I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And funny. I didn't expect that.
But funny, very funny.
And they have
a
a lot.
tragic comedy kind of.
Yeah. So you'd have that, and then this would be like the lighter, second and the double feature.
Yeah. I mean, but the leading men in the movies have a lot in common.
That is so interesting. That is an interesting comparison, but it is there. I see it.
It's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
Power dynamics, intimacy.
Do we think this adds anything to the killer robot, or I guess killer is not even the right word, misguided robot subgenre here? And the reason I'm asking this is, man, with the whole AI boom, we're getting so many. I literally watched the AI movie last year, which, by the way, was everything you would think it is going to be, made by Blumhouse, and it's not scary, but it is fun in the wrong ways, right ways. I don't know. But we got Megan. There's just so many of these things right now. What do we think this contributes or not to a genre that, frankly,
Alita Battle Angel. If I may.
There you go. This has about the same amount of comedy as that movie.
I never caught that one. I still need to see that one.
It's honestly really fun.
Okay,
it's really fun.
It's not like great cinema dialogue shot, but it is really fun.
No, it's very bad. In fact, I have a specific, and I dig it, but I specifically remember my wife watching it, and there's a moment at the end that's definitely supposed to be like an emotional character death. That is so silly and over the top. We both just die laughing. And it's at the climax of the movie. And then that's when I was like, this was the whole movie the whole time. I should have been watching it this way the whole time. So that's a great rec, Kirsten. Thank you. Bringing back Alita.
Of course.
But yeah.
We'll always sing its praises.
It makes me want to revisit it for that very reason.
And it tanked, so it's good that our subscribers will now go watch that film.
Yeah, give it some money. Mahershala Ali, guys, is in that movie. I mean, come on.
2-time Oscar winner, come on. Future Blade.
I tell you, I went South by Southwest the year that came out, and I saw the cast in person, and I literally saw them. I was like, oh, they're at the party. I was like, would it be weird if I would. I'm just going to not go talk to them. And it was just the kids, not Mahershala Ali, sorry.
Yeah.
But it was a better South by Southwest party than it was a viewing experience.
Yeah.
Sure.
LeBron, anything you want to add about how, what this film kind of contributes or not?
I don't know if it adds anything particularly new to the conversation, but it's still having a conversation that's worth having. And I feel like that's the thing. It's like, it's still presenting it maybe in a way for a younger generation to kind of explore these ideas and themes that we millennials have kind of seen in other movies that have come out in, even the last 10 years. So,
making us old, LeBron.
I'm sorry.
You're not wrong.
They're making us old.
You're not wrong. We have seen this a million times.
We've seen this a million times. This might be their fifth version. Megan might have been the third one they've seen. You know what I mean?
I mean, we dropped Ex Machina as if Gen Zers have watched that movie,
right?
From
no way.
12 years ago.
There's no way. No.
But please watch it.
But please do though. Yes, absolutely. I don't know if it explores anything new, but again, it's still bringing up a worthy conversation about these things. So.
Kirsten, any closing thoughts on this topic about contributions to robots in cinema?
I will go ahead and just second LeBron's opinion about it's not really doing anything brand new. I think that's fine, though. I think it is just, it is there to be fun. It is there to, maybe encourage you what what is the female experience? What is it to be human? What is it to experience love? But I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, it's not that serious. I think that's okay. It doesn't have to be.
Well said. Again, put a pin in it. I'll say, going back to what I said in my review, one of the reasons I like this is it's a down the middles, like kind of old school popcorn studio programmer. Doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. It just has to be really good at doing the thing. And I think this does it very well, which takes me to letter grade reviews. I'm going to start throwing this out. B-. Another B-. No, wait. Oh, sorry. Wrong movie. B. Right down the middle. not the minus. I got to give Companion the full half credit.
Grade on a curve, guys.
Yeah, no, it gets a B. Whereas initially, I think I would have given it like a C plus after reflection, giving it a B. Brett Grimes, what letter grade would you give this film?
Well, I think, we're going to keep getting movies like this. The more technology in real life that we have that mirrors this, the more intimacy is replaced by robots or VR or chatbots or, whatever the hell it may be.
And it's so depressing.
It is. And the more trouble people, especially younger generations, start to have forming their own intimacy with real people. So if we keep getting movies like this and they're all this good, I would be pretty pleased.
Yeah.
But I'd give this an A, actually.
Hey, all right. Love to hear it.
Yep.
All right. Kirsten, what letter grade would you give this film?
I love their character dynamic. I think that Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid are in particular very fun in this, and so for that reason, I am also going to give it an A.
Ooh, man!
I liked it a lot. I would watch it again right now if pressed.
Coming in
hot. We're gonna stop the podcast.
Yes.
Actually, I wouldn't be mad about it. LaRon Chapman, what letter grade would you give the film?
I do like the character dynamics as well. And particularly the sub characters were a lot of fun as well. And there was some surprises there that I actually got really engaged in. So, and I was surprised by that. I was like, oh, they're really giving this a moment. I appreciate that, I think I started off giving this a B-, but I think after this conversation, you guys have bumped me up to a B, So yeah, I do. I think it's a good time. I would rewatch it.
I'll just say this. You should, if it's still playing in the theater near you, probably not. But if it is, go see it. And if you can give it money, give it money. That said, I'm also excited when this is on whatever streaming service, because it'll be one that's super easy to throw on, low commitment, because it's not very long, a great time.
Funny at any given point.
It's funny enough to be digestible, has enough big ideas to be thoughtful, and then you can go about your day. So can't wait for that. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to our spoiler-free review of Heart Eyes.
For the past 2 years, a masked maniac known as the Heart Eyes Killer has stalked,
hunted,
and brutally slain couples on Valentine's Day.
With no motive yet uncovered.
This is more than just murder. He's like Cupid with a kink.
We're being chased by a fucking serial killer.
So according to IMDb, Heart Eyes is described as, for the past several years, the Heart Eyes Killer has wreaked havoc on Valentine's Day by stalking and murdering romantic couples. This Valentine's Day, no couple is safe. Wow, that is a great synopsis, right? IMDb 9 times out of 10, terrible. That's a great synopsis. I'm sold. You told me what I need to know. And there's even you get the catchy tagline at the end. Memorable. This film, Heart Eyes, is directed by Josh Rubin and co-written and produced by Christopher Langdon, among a couple other co-writers, but I mention him specifically because he is the director of the Happy Death Day films. Also, the upcoming Drop, very excited about that, which I think actually is going to be opening this upcoming weekend if you're listening to this right now. Heart Eyes stars Olivia Holt as Allie, Mason Gooding as Jay, Devon Sawa as Detective Hobbs, and Jordana Brewster as Detective Shaw. Yes, Kirsten, that is correct. That is Detective Hobbs and Detective Shaw.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
The film was released on February 7th, 2025, with a reported budget of $18 million. And as of the middle of March, has grossed $32.4 million and is currently available VOD, potentially, unlikely in mid-April, but potentially still available in a dollar theater if those still exist. So, Brett Grimes, I'll start with you. What did you think of Heart Eyes?
Yeah, so I have quite a few opinions on this, but I'll try and keep it brief. This should be my shit, right? Like, I love slashers. I love holiday themed slashers. Like, it's always fun. I thought the design for the killer was super cool. It has a lot of nods to all kinds of stuff. You know, you got the machete that's almost Jason-esque. You've got a cool mask design that's kind of a blend of the Collector, like with the stitching in the back, and almost like the goggles, almost reminding you of the Miner from My Bloody Valentine. So I really dug that. Can we talk about the weapon he uses?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got a little weapon that's almost reminiscent of like Cupid's deadly arrow or something. That's super fun. I liked that. And I love the premise of mashing up a slasher with something else like a rom-com. I think that's a great idea. It has a lot of cool shots and cool style. It oozes red and pink. It feels very Valentine's all the way throughout. You cannot go wrong with opening with Outkast's Valentine's Day. Like when that played, I was like, fuck yes. Perfect. Mason Gooding is excellent. He stole all of his scenes. He was super fun to watch. I'll watch anything he's in.
I'm hearing a big butt coming.
But I didn't like anything else about it. I thought there was... Okay, so for a movie that is a slasher and a rom-com, the most important thing in this movie has to be the chemistry between your stars.
Okay.
I thought there was zero chemistry.
Okay.
I thought these people don't even like each other in real life.
Okay.
I thought Olivia Holt as a lead couldn't pull it together. I thought she had one facial expression, which was like kind of confused with an eyebrow up.
I mean, she did do that a lot.
She did do it a lot.
She did do that a lot, yeah.
And the unforgivable sin for me is that they introduce a metal straw early on, and there's going to be a gag with this, and they don't commit.
I mean...
It's halfway there.
I mean, I don't want to spoil the movie. It's definitely a Chekhov's metal straw for the environmental friendly.
But it doesn't go all the way.
We're not going to do a spoiler filler review. It does come back. I mean, they do.
It comes back.
Yeah. Okay. Well...
But not to my satisfaction.
Okay,
I'll say that.
That's fair. All right. Fair. You have high expectations, I suppose.
I do.
That's fair.
There's certain things in a slasher you expect.
It's true. I mean, and we do get a lot of slasher movies that are not very good. So, you got to keep the expectations high to know how to sort through the crap.
Yep.
So, would this be the crap, though, for you?
No, this is middle of the road for me.
Middle of the road.
Okay. Like I said, there's some stuff I really liked. Like, I mean, I love one of the two leads. He's great the whole time.
Yeah.
It just didn't come together for me as a complete package.
He's definitely the more charismatic of the two. Undeniably, I would argue. Laurent Chapman, what is your take on Heart Eyes?
Man, I'm just the polar opposite on this one. This is my jam, and I do feel like it satirizes like that like corporate sponsored holiday thing, like all of that. Like it just kind of like
the boss lady in this.
In this, like we got to sell the hearts and we got to do it just for me, like from the opening, I was just like, oh, I already know I'm gonna love this. I already know I'm gonna be into this. And I actually disagree. I actually thought the chemistry between the two of them did work. And I was like really like sucked into the rom-com elements of this. And I was like, this is the perfect date movie, because if you came here for a rom-com, you're going to get that. And if you came here for a B slasher movie, you're also going to get that. And it doesn't like, unlike I mentioned, like with like Companion, where I think certain elements we could have added a little bit more of one or the other. And I was missing that. Here, I felt like it was like split down the middle. You're getting both of these movies in equal measure, throughout, and they commit to that throughout. It's not just like a shoehorned romance. I actually did get the warm and fuzzies that I would get watching a cheesy rom-com with the two of them. I agree that I think that Mason Gooding is the superior of the two, but I did think that their chemistry worked for me. But I did think that I also loved seeing Jordana Brewster and Devon Sawa. Really chewing up the scenery here. Yeah. They're both horror icons in their own respective, ways. And so giving them something fun to do here and not just making them the dumb cops that just make the corny bits throughout.
Jordana Brewster as the thirsty detective for him was a great gag. Every time it was like, anytime. Well, I won't spoil too much, but the whole bit. There's a bit where she's really into Cuba Gooding wrong Gooding.
There you go. Wrong Gooding.
Yes, Mason. Thank you. His son. Yes, Mason Gooding. She's like really into him and just trying to find reasons to get him in the car. It's really funny, I thought.
And I thought the death scenes were cool. This was like the perfect, like I giggled, I laughed, and then I also got my meal of carnage, as well. So for me, and I do like cheesy rom-coms, so I think this was made for me, if that makes sense.
It did feel when I was watching, I felt like this is very tailor-made because it's also pretty much using the Scream formula.
Yeah, and the self-referentialness of it all. There's several moments.
It's the whodunit,
the whodunit aspect, and then the characters literally like. I mean, there's a line at one point where they're like there's a little bit that they keep doing, about the two of their relationship with with whoever is doing all the carnage, So I thought that was funny. They kept referencing that, like just acknowledging that we are in a rom-com.
Yes,
and we are this is the trope. This is the thing.
This is that scene.
Yeah, this is that scene. I appreciated that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. I had a lot of fun with this movie. A lot more fun than Brett. I do. But I do think Mason Gooding is definitely the charisma differentiator here, and it was so strong. In fact, I won't spoil whether I was right or wrong, but for a good third to half the movie, I was like, I feel like he's such a good, he's so charismatic, I don't trust him, that sort of thing. And the movie does a really good job at playing with that expectation, even and especially in the first act of the movie. It's a great time. The lead, I was not as into Olivia Holt, but I don't think she was bad. She was just fine. I think chemistry could have been better, but maybe it's just because I thought Mason was so charismatic. I didn't mind it. And he carried a lot of the comedy between the two of them. He was so nice to a fault. I kind of hated him, but until all of a sudden he wasn't. It was there's a lot of good back and forth there. And also, will they actually end up together or won't they? I just had a lot of fun with all the tropey, self-aware tropiness of it. It's really silly, but I think the whodunit really was the kind of Scream components that feel Scream adjacent were really what carried it through for me, because I was like, who is the killer? What motivations make sense? This is all super cheesy horror. I'm laughing, I'm eating. It's a good popcorn film. But at the end of the day, Lauren, my wife and I saw this on Valentine's Day weekend, and we both said this was a great time. It was really silly. It was really fun. Could it be better in certain areas? Yeah, absolutely. Could it have been a better, co-lead? Maybe. But at the end of the day, I had the experience I wanted. And it was me and my wife being like, wait, could this person be in on it too? There was so many twists and turns that I enjoyed watching.
And the drive-in scene was just a lot.
Oh gosh, so much fun.
Yes, as drive-in scenes go in horror movies, this was a fun one, yeah.
And the fun meet cute moments too. Like there was like 2 or 3 different meet cute type scenarios that were kind of fun to watch. So yeah.
Was it weird for you guys at all for this to be a slasher and a rom-com that was entirely sexless? And I don't mean like just people getting it on screen, but just like there were no intimate scenes really in the whole thing
between them. There wasn't much time for it, I will say.
Right. It was a pretty lame
things kind
movie.
But I will say there was one scene in her house that I found very funny involving a certain toy that I thought that was a fun gag. Yeah.
Listen, Brett. Yes, that it could. Put sex back in cinema is the answer. I would not put that on the shoulders of this movie. That's just where we're at. Even in like rom-coms, it's like, whoa, we don't want to see sex on the screen in any way. I mean, there is another couple that sort of as a gag having sex, but even then, it's not like it's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Sure.
So. Yes, I think that's a correct criticism, but I would not lob it at this movie specifically so much as I would just say any horror, frankly, any movie that's released by any major studio at this point, we're allergic to sex. And allegedly, according to studies I've read, Gen Z also does not like the sex, so it's just on the screen. That is rather so. Just
because they haven't seen any, they've lived their whole lives with there not being any sex in movies.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm worried about them.
I blame Marvel.
I also blame Marvel, just genuinely.
Shots fired. The real bad guy was Kevin Feige and Disney all along.
Which really makes the Best Picture winner of this year surprising. You know what I mean? Like, but I will say Gen Z did not make that movie. It's
a millennial movie.
It's a millennial movie for sure. So,
man, it makes me wonder though. I need to go interview more Gen Z friends, or find Gen Z friends rather, and be like, what did you think of Anora? Because I would be really curious, honestly. Okay. Back on track. On a scale of Hubie Halloween to Black Christmas, how well do we think Hard Eyes utilizes the holiday themed backdrop? And then we'll just answer that really quickly and then jump right to letter grades. Laurent Chapman, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I feel like the holiday thing is sold really well. Hell, it's not shoehorned in here. It's everywhere throughout the whole process. It's on the day of it. The point of it is he's doing it on this day. So I felt like that worked really well. And again, I love that it's satirizing also just like the holiday in general and how ridiculous it is and how much it is just a money grab and how it gives false hope to people who are seeking romance on that day. It makes people who are single feel really sad. And
the whole holiday's a trap, frankly.
Exactly. Yeah. So I enjoyed the skewering of that aspect of it too. It's not on par with something like Eli Roth's Thanksgiving per se. I think that's a stronger movie, even just as a horror movie. But I would say that it's a few paces just behind that. I would say in terms of quality.
If I was going to compare them, I would say not that Hard Eyes is a copycat of Thanksgiving, but they are both definitely following a very similar type formula / genre exercise. Yeah. And I think Thanksgiving definitely did it much better.
Sure.
But it did it so well. This movie did it good enough.
Yeah.
And it went above and beyond what I would have expected, say, 5 years ago from a movie like this. Brett, Hubie Halloween? Black Christmas. Where are we at?
No, I'm actually in agreement here. I think it does a good job of feeling very Valentine's and having something to say about that. I think that's probably the most successful thing other than Mason Gooding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it. I did appreciate there's a great I think it's the first main kill. And I won't spoil what it is, but it's a really great send off to like where we're at with proposals and wedding cultures and all that. I thought it was a great send up of that. How so much of what people perceive as love is all just like manufactured for social media,
yes,
and there's a lot of clever ways it gets at that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it had me with that opening kill, which is sort of doing horror, comedy, satire of weird cultural things like Valentine's Day. So I think it does it pretty well overall in terms of holiday themed. Will I bust out every Valentine's Day? I don't know, but it'll definitely be on the list of like, hey, what horror movie should we look at this Valentine's Day?
I think you should flip a coin, and if it's heads, then you go My Bloody Valentine 3D. My Bloody Valentine 3D.
That's the only thing missing from this, guys, to make it to really
be fair,
hit it on the nose.
If you love My Bloody Valentine 3D.
If you land on tails, then it's Hard Eyes.
It's a great comp, actually. Well, letter grade recommendations. LaRon Chapman, what letter grade would you give Hard Eyes?
Yeah, I really dug this, so I'm going to give this a B+. I think that it's one of those things where it's like it's satirizing all these movies, but it's in the movies that it's referencing. I think it's even better than a lot of those. You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of a standout in its own space in that way. So,
well said. B+. Brett Grimes, what are you going to give this?
I'm going to give it a solid C. Like I said, middle of the road earlier. I'll stick to that. I think it's a solid C. I watched a different movie on Valentine's with my wife called The Dead Thing on Shudder. Have any of you seen this?
No.
That was similar in some ways, and I think had a little bit more to say about modern dating. So that's worth checking out.
Okay.
All right. Dead Thing.
The Dead Thing.
Yeah.
I can't remember the actress.
She was in. I love The Dead Thing. Under Google. I Google it. What does it say? What's the genre? Horror erotic. Yeah.
Okay. Sold.
I'm
Sex in cinema. It's back.
That's where all the sex is in cinema. It's on Shudder.
It's on Shudder.
And it's an hour and a half long, so it's
okay.
Incredible.
Beautiful.
You're
guys,
really
make movies 90 minutes again.
Please, yes. All of them. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Avatar, Fire and Ash, gonna be longer than The Way of Water.
Yes. 7 hours? Is that what I heard? 7 hours?
I'll be there, but god dang, I'm so tired of long movies.
Is there an intermission? Is there a Brutalist style intermission?
Please.
Well, then Navi sing in chorus to us in for 15 minutes while I go pee.
Wait, they better. If it's gonna be that long. James Cameron, I'm a believer, but seriously, intermissions, man. I'm gonna give this a B-, actually. Like, I like a lot about it. I think it could be better. It could be worse. It does enough right that I would definitely rewatch. It's also, again, nice, lean, fun. Just like Companion. I would put him kind of in the same echelon in terms of movie quality. All right. Well, those are our reviews of Hard Eyes. Let's go ahead and move on to our spoiler-free review of Wolfman.
Do you live in a forest?
Sometimes. Can you fly? Nope.
Do you walk on 4 legs?
Yes.
A bear?
No. Are you a deer? No, I'm a fawn.
A fawn? It's literally a baby deer.
You're such a cheat.
Stop! No!
You gotta move quick. Come on. Run.
So according to IMDb, Wolfman is described as a family at a remote farmhouse is attacked by an unseen animal, but as the night stretches on, the father begins to transform into something unrecognizable. That's only partially accurate, I would say. Wolfman is written and directed by Leigh Whannell of the Invisible Man fame, the one from 2020, not to be confused with the Kevin Bacon film from a long time ago. He also directed Upgrade, and his debut as a director was Insidious 3. Now, that said, he has been working in horror and writer-producer capacity for quite a while, most notably with the Saw franchise. He played Adam in the original Saw and remained a producer on most of those films. Now,
Saw 11 coming out this year.
Let's go, baby!
Look, Saw 10 was such a serve that I'm back. I guess Saw is back, guys. I wouldn't have expected it, but yeah.
Listen,
Socks, as I was calling it.
Socks. Oh, gosh. Like Saw 11, I can't believe it. I can't wait. I don't know. I have conflicting feelings about it, but I will say Saw X was such a home run for me. I'm back in. So just a couple fun facts here that I also want to note. Following the demise of the Dark Universe, you guys remember that?
Oh yeah,
incredible.
Oh, is it the demise?
Following the demise. Well, is it? It could come back.
I was gonna say, I feel like maybe this is a little bit their attempt to bring it back.
I think so. They're like, the Invisible Man made some money. What if we made a Wolfman movie? And maybe they're in the same universe, potentially. Could be, maybe. It's going to be much like Palpatine in the episode 9. Somehow the Dark Universe returned at some point. At least that's what the studios keep trying to tell us. So after the Dark Universe 1.0, the Wolfman IP has actually, they started taking pitches from a lot of different directors. Apparently, Ryan Gosling had one of the front runners at one point. He was a really popular pitch that didn't go with. They went with
to play in or to
no, to like. Well, I think he was going to be both direct and produce the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to know what that pitch was.
I do too. Honestly, I guarantee it was at least more interesting than this one. So they ended up going with what Leigh Whannell's pitch in large part. But here's the thing. Here's the caveat. In large part because Jason Blum had been courting him to make the movie. So what I think happened is Jason Blum's like, I like money. You made Invisible Man. That was pretty good. What if you made Wolfman? And I think he was probably like, what if I didn't? And then Blum's like, but what if you did? And anyway.
I think it's exactly how that went.
I actually do too.
Bullying someone into making a movie always goes well.
Yeah, he's like, but what if I, Jason Blum, produced the Dark Universe? No, okay. But that said, this movie was budgeted at $25 million. It made $34.5 million in its theatrical run. Now available VOD. I should note that the film does star Christopher Abbott, God bless him, as Blake Lavelle, Julia Gardner as Charlotte Lavelle, and Matilda Firth as Ginger Lavelle. Ginger, name coming back. Love that throwback right there. Okay. Kirsten, I'll throw it to you on this one. What are your overall thoughts on Wolfman?
Caleb, I'm so sorry. I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't see it?
I didn't see it.
Oh,
I didn't
goodness.
get a chance to. I heard it was boring.
Okay.
And so I never went.
Well, hopefully this conversation will be better than what the movie turned out to be.
Yeah.
Lauren Chapman, actually, I'll throw it. Maybe you can kick us off appropriately because you in fact,
I subjected you to this on my birthday because I have a January 17th birthday. I'm Capricorn, and
I have January 24.
Okay, are you an Aquarius?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So every January I force my friends to go to see whatever terrible movie January has to offer for us. And this year it was Wolfman. By
the way, Laurent's taste are always impeccable. He's always thoughtful and considerate because he could have picked some other movies.
There were several movies that released that weekend that we probably should have seen instead. I was like, I'm in mixed company. What can we see that will not offend everyone? I picked the wrong one.
When you get Leigh Whannell, he did Invisible Man. There's going to be a bar for how bad it could get.
Yeah. I will say this one made me very sad because I absolutely love the most recent remake of Invisible Man. I felt like that is how you take an old classic horror film, recontextualize it, have something new to say with that same material. And they really capitalize on the kind of the Me Too movement and the gaslighting of women who have been victims of domestic abuse, and making the Invisible Man this threat that no matter how many times she's going around trying to convince people that something is happening to her, no one believes her. And I thought that's so clever, a very brilliant way to take that concept and run with it. So the prospect of Lee actually making this movie made me very excited, because he was going to do something different, new and fresh with this Wolfman thing. That has not just been successful, many times with the modern incarnation. So,
and this is the first movie he's made since The Invisible Man, right? So we're also, there's a little bit, it's been 5 years. He's had some time to think it over. And he co-wrote this with his wife during COVID. So you're like, all right, there's some potential here.
I was very excited for it. I actually thought the trailers were really well done. They were intense. They actually felt scary. And this is just such a snooze. It's such a snooze. It just seems like it's just a wasted opportunity, because I did like the minimalist approach to it, the stripped back nature of it. I was like, okay, this is just going to be like down and dirty in the woods with Wolfman. And it is, but not really. You know what I mean? Like, it's never scary. I feel like the characters are underdeveloped. And, it's weirdly not very long. I want to say it's like maybe at the most
hour and 40, maybe
at the most 100 minutes. But it feels longer.
Hour 43.
Hour 43. But it feels so much longer.
So much longer.
It feels longer because it just takes so long to get to the inciting incident. And then when it does, it kind of just fizzles out on a whimper. And I'm like, okay, so we waited this long to be this underwhelmed. So that's my general overall take. I think the performances were good. I love Julia Garner. I'm a huge Ozark fan, and I just feel like there was a lot of wasted opportunity here. Special effects better than the 2010 version with Benicio del Toro, but it's not saying much.
Better than the movie from 15 years ago.
Yeah, but not saying much.
That said, I just rewatched the Constantine 4K, and that movie was made in like 2005, and it looks better than like 90% of things today. So who knows where we have?
I need to borrow that.
Oh, it's a great up conversion. It's good. Brett Grimes, what did you think of Wolfman?
I'm in much the same boat. I was really looking forward to this. I loved Invisible Man. I thought Upgrade was fantastic. So, I was like, at its worst, it's going to be a mediocre Wolfman movie, but it'll be suspenseful.
Yeah.
It has that on lock, right? No, it wasn't really suspenseful. It was disappointing. I thought actually the first 25 minutes were really strong.
Yeah.
I thought there's some great character development there. Christopher Abbott, his character and his story, without spoiling too much, you see some of his childhood, which was really interesting, and then where he is in present day and how those two things have impacted each other. And I was hooked. And I also think it's really hard to pull off daytime horror sometimes.
Yeah.
And this movie does a great job with some early daytime horror where I was like, okay, this is really kind of intense and I'm excited to see where this goes. But about the halfway part, things start to change and I really felt like it went off the rails. You lose Christopher Abbott kind of as your protagonist.
Pretty early.
Pretty early, yeah. And then the POV switches to Julia Garner, who they do zero character development for.
Yeah,
she's very unlikable.
She's a
don't
journalist.
Want her to be the
That's all you know about her. That's the extent to her character, and she's so much better than that.
And I'm sorry, there's no way, based on what they gave us, there's no way she's a real journalist.
Not a good
journalist can't afford to live in that place with that outfit in New York? No way. In this economy?
No.
But I think that's a great point, because that's a big criticism I have as well, is you kind of have bare bones enough to understand why he's doing what he's doing.
Right.
I think you have zero to go off of for why she's backing him. And then, so when it shifts perspective, you're like, what are we even doing here?
I felt like she was going to leave him before the movie started.
Yeah.
And then when shit goes down and she's still there, I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. And even when she's like, hey, this is weird, he does all the horror trope of like, no, it's no big deal. This is totally normal, and it's just not fun. I want to echo the sentiment here. This was a big disappointment. It has a great opening. Honestly, the first, 15, 20 minutes, there's a whole like opening horror sequence, daytime, spooky, builds the suspense, sets up. You're like, ooh, if this is where we're starting, I can't wait to see where it goes.
Essentially, when we get to the house, it just
flatlines. Yeah. The one cool points does not make a good movie. more like cool idea that I would love to see implemented in another movie is he does do a really interesting thing with wolf vision and you've seen the trailer too, where basically it's like Christopher Abbott is slowly losing his ability to understand humans. It just sounds like jibber jabber nonsense. And they do a really good job when they switch POVs, sort of showing his mental deterioration as he transforms into the Wolfman. That was kind of a cool thing. It's a cool thing.
That's the movie I thought we were getting.
Yes, yeah.
And I was so sad that was an idea that was just derailed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because it's such an interesting concept. And I was like, if it's going to be the psychological deterioration of him in like as he's transforming and we're getting the POV of that, people talking to him and he's trying to understand everything. That's an interesting movie. And I don't know why. Even visually, they encapsulate that very well, but
very well.
It just isn't like explored much.
Well, and you tie it to the Wolfman, like, because that's the whole thing too. The idea they set up, seemingly for me, is the idea that you have this family trauma that he has to go and reckon with. And I love that idea that when he goes back to the place, he starts to transform because the trauma brings it out of him. It's like this inner, generational trauma and how that impact. And I'm like, oh, there's some meat there, and they just totally drop it. Like, there's a whole scene. We can't spoil it, but there's just moments where you're like, that's clearly an idea. It's not earned, and the delivery doesn't land at all. Where you're like, I think they're trying to do something here, but by the point you get to some of these big moments, it's like, what do we? Yeah. Was I supposed to feel something at this point? There was a lot of that.
It just flirts with good ideas. It doesn't really like seal a deal. It doesn't ask the person on the date like the other two movies we reviewed.
It looks outstanding. The shots of the Pacific Northwest or wherever they shot it.
It's shot very well. Yeah, it is shot very well. It has a great look. It just doesn't. Yeah,
that's all I got.
Except for the one fight in the middle of the movie that was very reminiscent of Buffy episode.
Okay, that's fair.
I
kind of
laughed out loud. Okay, I'm listening again.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I just, I think it's pretty bad. Laurent, you mentioned the Del Toro version. That movie was so bad, I kind of enjoy it. I remember it being a laughably bad movie. So that's a positive memory for me. Like, how would you compare this to some of the others?
I feel like at least that one, while it was bad, it was fun to laugh at.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so bad that it's just like, okay, well, this is, I'm still entertained by the terribleness of it, because it was at least terrible in an entertaining way. But I felt like this one just, it's just boring. And that's the worst. That's the worst sin of it is like, it's not even interesting enough to, to make fun of, so, and I missed the part where like we ever just explicitly announced that this is the title character. It feels very...
No, they don't do it.
They just don't explore lore at all in this. And it's not even like...
Zero lore.
I don't even know if it is that character because there's nothing said about it outside of just the visual things that we see later, which I also think could have been amped up more. I felt like it's a very stripped down, like, is that a wolf? I don't know if that's a wolf. That looks more like a squirrel or something.
Maybe
less scary. It's
not scary.
Not scary.
It gets real mired down in that transformation that's supposed to happen. It feels like it takes forever. Like, is he the Wolfman yet?
Yeah.
No,
is this
happening.
it? Is this the full version of it? Oh, okay.
Final evolution.
Where's the fur?
the two sort of scare and then jump scares, but they are in the trailers. So it's like it's a rough time. Brett, anything you'd like to add about how this compares to other Wolfman incarnations?
I think if you're looking for a better werewolf movie with something to say, check out Joe Dante's The Howling.
Ooh,
yeah. Oldie but a goodie.
Yeah.
Especially if you're struggling with it, stick to the end. It really sticks the landing.
I mean, I was going to say Underworld, Rise 3, Rise the Lycans, but if you want to go with that one.
Speaking of January drops.
Yeah. See, that's an example of a werewolf movie I want to see in January right there.
Yes.
Yeah, the creature design was better than that too.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
Again, VFX haven't come as far lately. Listen, the best thing I can say about this movie is I got to see it with Laurent for his birthday.
Thanks for showing up.
And it was great. No, it was a great time. The company was fantastic. We had, you had a great group of people there to watch it with.
I had my Wolfman themed cocktail that they provided me.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just throw fuzz in it.
Was it a good cocktail at least? Did they give you a good one?
I don't remember it, so no.
It didn't give you that wolf vision.
It didn't give me, and
it was no Rat Dune Part 2 Arrakis Sunrise. It sounds like.
No, it was not.
A cocktail that makes you stop understanding human speech.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, I might have done that.
Okay, well, Laurent, what letter grade would you give the film then?
Oh man, I don't want to be mean, but it is not good.
I've been mean.
I'm gonna say, I know. I'm gonna give it a D+. It's not good.
It's not good.
It's not good. I want to be nice and say C-, but I just didn't. I couldn't really find a lot of redeeming qualities with it. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it's just not a good time. It's
more offensive than a bad movie. It's just boring.
Yeah, just boring. Yeah, and that's the worst. You do not want a horror movie to be boring. So.
0. Brett Grimes, what's your letter grade here?
Yeah, I thought I was going to give it a C-, but I realized that I didn't have the pleasure of joining LeRon on his birthday, so it's getting a D+.
I'll pick a better movie next time.
I'm in.
Guys, I'm giving it a D-, and I don't do this often. I gets the minus just because I think the Wolf Vision stuff's pretty cool. Now, it doesn't even make the movie better. It's just like, man, that's a cool idea. I can't wait for someone to do that better in a different movie.
Yeah.
But it'll have originated in this movie as far as I can tell. So D-. But guys, don't waste your time. It's sad. Which leads me to the most important question here. Sounds like we're all in consensus. This is a pretty bad movie, especially for Leigh Whannell, however you want to say it. I think it's Lee. What should he do? You're his agent. So Brett, you're his agent. You call him up. You say,
wait,
hey,
you're his agent?
I am, yeah.
So this is your fault?
Yeah. I'm his agent now.
You're the new agent. The new agent. What do you tell him to do next?
I think you get a writing partner and you have some checks and balances on your story and you make sure that your first half aligns with the second half of the movie and you don't take your protagonist out in the middle. The core story things that are fairly easily reconcilable, and he knows how to tell a story. He's done it before.
If they just put a question mark at the end of the title, then this movie would actually be selling what she was like, Wolfman?
Wolfman.
Yeah.
Maybe. That's the kind of movie? Maybe. All right. LeRon, you're actually the new agent. What do you tell him? What do you tell him to do?
So
Brett's advice got him fired.
I feel like the Dark Universe is like hanging on by a thread. And, I would say if I was this agent, like, you've proven yourself once, you can do it again. But if you fail twice, then this whole universe is 6 feet under and you'll forever be the guy that tanked it again. Tom Cruise will send you flowers of gratitude for taking the heat off of his shoulders. So
taking that black mark off his record.
Yes, exactly. It makes me sad because again we had such a promising start of a recharge, and so this sets us back. So whatever happens next is really gonna contextualize whether this is even worth sustaining or moving forward. But I do think the great modern Wolfman movie is yet to be made.
Yeah,
and I do want to see that. I do want to see that. So I don't know if it'll be this director, but
so he fires you for that one too. So and now I'm the default agent, and I say, listen, man, people loved Upgrade. You got to redeem yourself a little bit. Prove that you actually know what you're doing, even though you've already done it. You're still not far enough in your career. You got to like reconvince people to make sure they can trust you. So just go make Upgrade 2. And the first one, just do it better with a newer idea.
I'd watch the hell out of that.
I mean, I loved Upgrade 1 so much, I would watch it. So
how is Upgrade a better body horror movie than Wolfman?
That's a great question.
That is a question we should ask, Lee.
About a man losing autonomy of his own body.
I have been sitting here this whole time listening to you guys give your reviews being like, what if Wolfman and Upgrade were one film? What if they made the Wolfman Upgrade film? Because I would watch that for sure also.
That's where we went wrong. So it would be...
We're going to write that,
Wolfman
right?
colon...
Yes,
Wolfman colon upgraded. So listeners...
Guys, they patched the movie.
Listen, guys, they got to hire us to go to Hollywood. Come on.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Those are our reviews of Wolfman. We were not impressed. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of today's episode. We're going to move into our spoiler-free section of our review of The Monkey.
There was nothing. But then it appeared. A beast not from this earth, smiting the ones who deserved it, the ones who didn't. And everyone in between. Whoever controls it controls life and death. And those deaths are really fucked up.
Holy sh! Everybody dies. And that's life.
So according to IMDb, when twin brothers Bill and Hal find their father's old monkey toy in the attic, a series of gruesome deaths start. The siblings decide to throw the toy away and move on with their lives, growing apart over the years, as one does. All right, Kirsten Thirkelson, I'm throwing it to you first. Welcome back to the table. What did you think of The Monkey?
You know, my official spoiler-free review of The Monkey is Oz Perkins finally made one I don't hate.
All right. That's something.
It is something. I thought it was fun. It's not, my favorite thing that I've seen in 2025, but, I liked it. I don't even know. I started to be like, oh, well, if you liked Oz Perkins' other stuff, then, cause I like this one so much more than his other stuff, then you'll probably like it. But I don't know. He can't make, I don't know. The only thing consistent for me with him is that I'm usually disappointed with the actual like meat of the movie, compared to the aesthetic that I'm promised and the themes that like kind of lie at the core. I'm always like, this is going to be it. This is going to be the good one. I thought that for Longlegs too. I was sorely disappointed. But this one, I don't know. Maybe it's just that. Because this one is a little bit more dark comedy, it plays better for me. But I liked it. I still didn't love it. But at least I didn't hate it.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't hate it. It's better than I'm disappointed again. So I'll take it. Yeah. So I really wanted to make this the centerpiece this week because Osgood Perkins, one of the most debated directors as of last year, because Longlegs divided our friend groups, our movie circles everywhere. Yeah. I don't know anyone who actually loved it. It's mostly like it was pretty good or I like a lot about it, quite a lot, to this movie sucks and it's insulting me. Why did it get made? Fuck you, Osgood Perkins. There's nowhere in between.
There's been a divide.
There's been a massive
we have been on the more
positive side
of that spectrum, but
where I'm like,
without loving it.
Yeah, I like Longlegs. I'm like the vibe. This is a vibes movie, and for me, it got the vibes I wanted.
Yeah.
Now, was the story kind of underwhelming, specifically like the last act for me? Yeah, it was pretty disappointing, but like it wasn't as if that did not ruin the watching experience for me. It was just like this was almost an A+ to. B, C+, B-.
Cool. Yeah, he didn't actually have anything to say.
He didn't have anything. He had a great setup and he wrote himself into a corner and took the easy way out. And it kind of made the movie less interesting. But the vibes,
man.
Man,
those
they were
vibes,
so
the
creepy.
vibe checks.
Yeah, I was creepy, ominous. So that said, it was important to me that we talk about the follow-up, The Monkey, which actually had a trailer debut in front of Longlegs.
Which was a big surprise.
Was a big surprise. Fast turnaround. And he's got another one in the works.
I was going to say, did you guys stay for the post-credit stinger?
No, I didn't know about it until I was researching this podcast. There's a teaser for the next one.
It's just a teaser for the next one.
Yeah.
It's like, my God, take a break.
He must have worked out some deal with the devil at Neon or something, because
he's like, I got to make enough movies before they realize I'm not
good at it. Well, but it turns out
some Emperor's New Clothes shit going on here.
You say that, he's like, all right, guys, all right, Neon, give me a 3-movie deal, $50 million for all of them. And then Longlegs turns out to be the most successful movie in financially in Neon's history. So now they're like, all right, Oz, how many can you give us in a year? Come on.
Yeah.
So that said,
before that cash cow runs out.
Before audiences realize, wait a second, is this guy actually any good? I said to say he is a very divisive figure in horror in the year circa 2024, 2025, even though he's been around for quite a while. That takes me to Brett Grimes. What did you think of The Monkey?
Yeah, I will start off saying I really enjoyed The Blackcoat's Daughter and I'm the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. I thought those were both great and completely unexpected. I was let down by Longlegs, but I by no means thought, why did you make this? This is terrible garbage. I just thought, this has some cool ideas, but it's not really gelling for me. But I'm glad I watched it and I was entertained by it, especially in the theater. But I went into this one with some cautious optimism because of that. I liked 2 earlier movies. The last one didn't quite work for me. This one looks funny. I've never seen him do anything funny that felt like it worked. What's this going to be? And I really enjoyed it. I think Theo James is fantastic.
He's a high point for me for sure.
And he's the whole movie, I mean, really just centers around him.
He goes really hard. I think the twin thing. He's so good at both of the parts. I didn't expect him to be as good as he was, even though I like him.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't expect it to have an absurdist quality all the way around, like the clothes, the dialogue. It feels like it's very much in a world of its own.
Well, Oz Perkins' character that he plays on screen is like this 1970s. Yeah, with the
mustache.
And we are swingers.
Yeah, it's almost out of time in that way, right?
Yes.
And I almost hate to give this comparison, but there's a little bit of like weird Napoleon Dynamite energy happening here.
Yeah.
I think that's there.
Yeah.
It does feel, again, not, I guess we're aging ourselves on this podcast today as another theme. It does feel like a very millennial type horror movie, and that it has a lot of the absurdist comedy and humor in a way that feels very like specific to the things that we're freaking out about. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. And on top of that horror, I thought it was actually kind of touching by the end, and the horror and the comedy.
Yeah.
I was kind of moved a little bit. More than I thought I was going to be. Not a tear in the eye, but it's getting there.
I mean, it's a movie you don't expect to feel things, because it's an absurdist dark comedy, and it had more the point it was making landed a lot better than I expected it would, because I was expecting just the comedy, not actually a successful idea delivered clearly, and I thought that this theme that we'll talk about more in spoilers about the specifics, but this idea that we're all gonna die. We're all going to die. You're not going to know how. You're not going to get, you don't get to pick how, why, or when. It's just going to happen. And it might just be for random reason or not. And the best you can do is just enjoy the ride along the way, and laugh about it.
100%.
And that's what the movie does really well. And I thought it makes a poignant point about it by the end. I agree. Yeah.
Which I do have to ask, and we can save this for later if needed, but you guys do know about Oz Perkins' mom.
The
right?
9/11 thing?
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not familiar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, walk us through it.
So Oz Perkins' mother, Barry, God, what is her? I can't think of that. Anthony Perkins' wife, obviously, until he passed. She was on the plane.
Yeah, Barry Berenson?
Berenson, thank you. She was on one of the planes that flew into the towers. She was coming back from vacation. It was completely, unexpected to the nth degree. Yeah, that's how he lost his mom. All one day short of the 9-year anniversary of him losing his dad, I think it was. Yeah.
It was right around the time it was around the same time of year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, and I think that's also adds makes it maybe a little more poignant. Is this guy is clearly worked stuff out, or
he's working through some things.
It out, especially as he gets older, and you've seen him in more a serious fashion look at some of these ideas in a very nihilistic point of view, I would say. Mm-hmm. And this is sort of his attempt to work it out through comedy, for sure. LaRon Chapman, what did you think of The Monkey?
Man, I feel like such a curmudgeon this time. This is where I get mean, because here's the thing. I understood the backlash. I understood the reason why people would be upset by what they got out of Longlegs based on what we were told that we were going to get with Longlegs. But like you, Caleb, it didn't kill it for me, but I did definitely walk away feeling like the ending was underwhelming, but the overall, again, the vibe check and the atmosphere that he created worked enough for me to say that there was some craft and some cinematography that was impressive to see. Which made me very curious about this one, because tonally, obviously, even from the trailer, you can tell it's much different from his other projects. But I had the effect that people had on Longlegs with this one, where I came into this thinking this is going to be like a Final Destination kind of like silly, but it's still going to be menacing and dark and all those things. And you texted me after you watched it, and you were like, the trailer makes it look silly. It's sillier than that, LaRon. And I was like, okay. So even with that caveat, even knowing that going into it, about 10 minutes into this, I knew this is not working for me, because it just, and I think that
opening kill sequence, you probably know whether you're in or out pretty quickly.
I was like, and then just the way certain characters are speaking, I was like, is this creep show, goosebumpsy kind of like, that's what I was getting, like that level of cheese factor.
It's got Beetlejuice energy at times.
Right.
You know?
Just very kooky. And like, that's fine, but that is just not the movie I wanted to get out of this, because I did think the concept was menacing. I thought the idea of it was and I think that my particular brand of, I'm telling you, there's like a weird ratio. It's either have to be split down the middle, but you can't have too much of one or the other, you know? And for me, it just had so much comedy. So, and like not even comedy for me that I find particularly humorous, that it just deflated any semblance of tension between this. Because even some of the Final Destination movies, I think, are obviously not all of them are good. In fact, I would say most of them probably aren't, but I enjoy them.
They're all fun.
But they're all fun.
I just rewatched 3 recently, and what a joy.
Yeah, and I mean, like, but there's still like a level of tension between those really dumb kills that where you're like, oh, how's it going to happen? Or you see this setup and it's going to happen. You're like, oh no. And you're like still on the edge waiting for the thing to happen. And for me, I just could never get invested. I could never get on the wavelength of this movie to enjoy the absurdist quality of it. I do think that Theo James was good. I will say that I wrote down that Theo James good. Movie, not so, question mark. So I didn't hate this, but I think I'm more so, this is one where
Adam Scott at the beginning, that was a great cameo, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think for me what it is I had, this was one of my most anticipated horror movies of the year. And so when it was not what I wanted it to be, I think this is more like a disappointment more than I am thinking it's just bad. It's just like,
you can think it's just bad too, LeRon.
It's also just, I think it's just not my cup of tea. Yeah. Like this is not for me. I feel like it didn't work for me in the horror aspect of it. If I thought of this as just a dark comedy, maybe it works better. But
I would say that's a very apt point. I want to talk more about that too. Is like a lot of, frankly, looking at the Q1 horror, I was like, well, these are all kind of horror ? Horror adjacent. This definitely lands in that camp where
even the deaths are like
it's absurdist humor that is.
They're playing for
tangentially horror, you know, because it's not a scary movie. Like it's even less scary than I expected. I didn't expect it to be that. I thought Final Destination, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing about this is scary. What does stick out to me though is, you know, one thing that I think Osgood Perkins is great at, and I'm not saying he's great. Story does not seem to be his strong suit, frankly, but man, he understands how to control a tone.
Yeah,
atmosphere, tone, the production design, all of it sort of creates this feeling that he wants you to have. And I think in the same way that I thought it was great in Longlegs, even if the story was lacking, he was really good at it here. Like it was a different energy than Longlegs, but
he's selling the thing that he's selling.
Exactly. Like every choice here is intentional, and I appreciate inconsistent, and unique. In a way that I haven't seen, at least that I can recall, because it's sillier and more absurdist than the dumbest Final Destination movies for sure.
Yeah.
And for me, it worked overall. It was a fun time. It lacks. It's not really scary unless you're just existentially scared of death. I mean, I guess that's.
These days I am.
Yeah.
But well, in general, maybe not.
I mean, to be fair, and I think that's the point the movie's trying to make. Don't be existentially scared of death. We're all going to die. Because that's the whole arc for Theo James is learn how to just lean in and embrace that you're going to die. And that worked for me enough.
Yeah.
So what's funny, you say maybe it's just not my cup of tea, maybe like whatever it is that he's doing. And the thing is that it is exactly my cup of tea what he's trying to do with the monkey, and I still am pretty lukewarm on it. So.
Yeah.
I'm sad. The biggest tragedy for me is I was getting my popcorn ahead of this movie, and they had the monkey popcorn bucket,
which looks awesome.
And I was like, I need it, but I don't need to spend $50 right now.
$50.
It's an expensive one. It's super nice. Like that's the monkey.
I saw the one at AMC
with the drum and everything. It's really cool. It's a cool memento, and I've been collecting popcorn buckets. I don't know where the hell they're all going to go by the time 10 years pass.
Ron, I'm not going to. I don't do this very often because I think you're totally. I think your opinions are your own, and I respect them always. But you got to admit that at least the monkey design was pretty creepy. The way its lips popped open right before it started hitting the cymbals. I don't want to look at that thing.
Very
awesome.
Captured very well the what is so horrifying about vintage things like that. The uncanniness of.
Did you see Oddity last year?
Yes, I did.
In the vein of that, of things that are creepy to just look at, like there you go.
The carving, is that what you're?
Yes.
Jesus,
yes,
that
terrifying.
thing. imagine having that in your home.
I'm glad that I abstained from buying the popcorn bucket despite like my gluttony to get it. And then I watched the movie and I was like, I don't need it. It's fine.
It's always good. That's the thing with the popcorn buckets. You're like, what if you buy it and the movie sucks? I mean, that's happened.
Now you have this $50 reminder that you spent $50 on something for a movie you didn't even like.
Oh man, popcorn buckets. This is the year, guys. That trend is gonna pop. That bubble's popping this year.
I'm still salty about not getting the worm.
Me too. Or one of the alien buckets that were so cool. I'm not allowed to buy more popcorn buckets though. It's I've been banned from buying more popcorn buckets. Okay, before one more. Last thing I would say, I just want to talk about a little bit. We've all kind of alluded to this before we get to letter grades, and then we'll talk more in spoilers. What does this bring to the sort of subgenre of, death is chasing you, or maybe cursed object subgenre of horror, maybe that we haven't seen before? Because again, I think the absurdist take seems to be what's new here and novel, and I think will probably hold up in the film's favor.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to add about maybe what sets it apart from other films we've seen?
I mean, it is having an existential commentary, on death, like in our relationship to dying and our anxiety around that. I don't know if it's having the most meaningful conversation about it, but it is having it. And it did at least posit some questions that I found interesting. So there's that, I guess. And honestly, I think this is the kind of movie that if I step away from it for a while, now that I know what it is, and then I go in and watch it again, and I could probably get on its wavelength now that I know what that is. I just think that I was not calibrated in the right mood for this when I went to see it, because I went to see something that was gonna like there was gonna be tense, bloody, intense.
Well, again, the marketing didn't make it easy for you.
Yeah.
No, the marketing was great. They're really good at marketing Osgood Perkins stuff. Because I gotta say, Laurent, I like the movie a lot more than you. I don't have any interest in rewatching this again, though. Okay. I will say that much. Even though I had a good time, and I think there are ideas there that I think are worth talking about, and I think the movie does, as you said, at least start the conversation.
Yeah.
Brett, any thoughts on what else this maybe adds to that sort of cursed object subgenre of horror?
I feel like a lot of those, there's like a plan or a design to the deaths, and this really seems to hammer home the randomness, and I think that really works in its favor. That and the pitch black humor. I think we're right in saying this really isn't strictly a horror movie. It's a dark, gory comedy.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. We didn't mention that before, but the whole one of the rules of the monkey is you spin it and it's going to kill someone.
Yeah, someone's going to die, but who?
We don't know.
We don't know.
And how? We definitely don't know.
Yeah.
Kirsten, any other thoughts on this before we get to letter grades?
Just that, you've been asking about whether or not it adds anything new to, like, what new it adds to the conversation. I think maybe one of its biggest detriments is that it doesn't, beyond the absurdity, because it does just kind of, I don't know. It does the sin of reminding me of a lot of other movies that I would rather be watching.
Yeah.
But that said, I do think that the absurdity, the level of absurdity, a lot of films don't necessarily have the cojones to really commit to, and I think that this one definitely does.
Yeah. I can't believe
to the bit.
I can't believe they got Elijah Wood for one scene, and it was an amazing scene. Like that's the absurdist tone here.
I do have one issue with that, which is that he can I give a very light spoiler?
Yeah.
Elijah Wood doesn't die.
Yeah, I know.
He's in that one scene.
I don't get it. I didn't understand.
I know.
He was so much fun. I was
know.
expecting more.
I know.
You're in a horror movie and you're making a cameo. Your one job is to die.
He's a total scene stealer.
Oh yeah.
You're completely expecting him to make a return. Anyway,
it did feel a little bit like the Chekhov's Elijah Wood.
Yeah.
A little bit of a bummer there.
Don't dangle that carrot and then take it away.
About this tone. Coming out of the theater, my wife Rory brought up a good point. We felt pretty much the same about Longlegs, that it was a little inconsistent. And she said, does this make you reevaluate Longlegs at all? Do you think he was kind of experimenting with some of that tone there and dipping his toes in it? And I think so, because some of that movie feels a little idiosyncratic, like this movie, a little wonky, right?
Especially the Nick Cage performance.
Exactly.
Like,
that. Yep.
The Nick Cage performance is another one of those where you're making a very specific choice.
And it either
works
or it
does
doesn't
not
for you.
I, for one, think the Happy Birthday, love it or hate it, unforgettable movie moment. I'm not even joking. Is it a bad movie moment?
Maybe.
I don't think so, but some people certainly do. And I can't wait to send them that song for their birthday every year until the end of time, or when they murder me, or with the little monkey. So, well, let's get to letter grades. More to talk about in spoilers here. I don't know, Brett Grimes, what letter grade would you give The Monkey?
I'm going to give it a solid A again.
Ooh,
I really liked this movie.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
I love that you loved it. I liked it. I'm glad you loved it.
I do want to watch it again.
And okay, well, there we go.
All right.
It's a Grime Planet feature.
Yeah,
maybe.
Which paired with?
It might have to be one of the Final Destinations.
Yeah. But which one? That's the one.
That's the question.
Watch, it's like 4. It's like,
I need to see
God.
not 4.
I know, one of the worst ones. It's like,
4 and 5 are pretty terrible.
Yeah.
What?
5. Wait.
I think 5 I like.
Wait. 5 is the one with the
where the surprise twist at the end that we won't spoil for people who haven't seen it in 20 years. It's like, but
okay, fair point.
I think it's really the only thing that makes it.
You're right.
Makes it.
I was going to say 5 is maybe one of the best ones.
Maybe I need to rewatch that one. 3 I thought was a blast because that was where they clearly figured
4
out
is pretty bad.
making fun
is
of it.
Is that the roller coaster?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's clearly. I was like, they're making
3
fun.
They found the game,
and even the
1 and 2 are pretty self-serious.
Yeah,
which is fine.
I mean, but 2 has the most iconic turbo death of all.
Yeah, that one
traumatized millennials forever.
It gets to exist is because of that hiatus.
Yeah, every time you see a truck with logs, you're like, all right, stay away.
Very few movies in my life, and I've seen a lot of horror movies. It's like have actually changed my behavior about what I do on a regular basis.
So true.
And it's so weird. Like, and it's not even that it's particularly scary. It's just like that would be a terrible way to die, and it seems plausible that.
And
it
I
could
can totally see it happening.
Anytime you see the trucks with the logs or the ones stacked full of cars, you're like, avoid at all costs. Yep. All right, so Brett's gonna give this an A. Ron Chapman, what's your letter grade for The Monkey?
And again, I didn't hate this. I just realized that it was not calibrated to my taste when it comes to the horror comedy merging of things, as we've seen many iterations of that on this podcast alone. Like you could see, yes, hard eyes, no, yes-ish companion, just no for this one for me. But I do think on a technical level, it's pretty well made, particularly a lot of the death scenes are really creative.
So a budget of $10 to $11 million looks a lot more expensive than that.
Sure. And Theo James is the duality performance there was a lot of fun. So I would give this a down the middle C, oh, wow. Average, pretty middle of the road for me, but don't hate it, but it's just not something that worked entirely for me.
That is a way higher rating than I was expecting.
Really?
Yeah. So what, Diplomatic, LeBron, Kirsten Thurkelson, what letter grade would you give this film?
So for kind of the opposite reasons, there were some things that worked really, really well for me. And then there were some things that I just did not care for and could have done without. Because I feel two ways about it, I will also give it a C.
All right. Down the middle.
It kind of averages out, but it's not that I liked, all of the movie middling amount. It's that I have just drastically differing opinions on
different choices.
Some of the different choices that were made.
I'm giving it a C+ because I like that there were choices made, and the fact that it made choices whether I liked them or not, they were so absurd I at least laughed at them. Again, maybe I'm learning something about myself through Osgood Perkins. I'm like, well, same with Nick Cage. Was it good? Was it bad? Well, it was memorable.
Took a big swing.
And I am happy that there was a swing taken. And so it gets a little bit of a bump for me there. Because this is a lot of choices that are very strong and I appreciate them. Simultaneously, though, I have no interest in like going back to watch this. It's absurdist enough to be memorable, but not fun enough to be Final Destination 3. It's not fun enough for me, even though I laughed a lot.
Yeah.
But
I think Brett's onto something though about the cheekiness of Osgood Perkins. Like his sensibility is much more quirky than anything. Because if you watch Long Legs again, with the context of now having seen this, you're like, maybe this is supposed to be funny, and we took it way too seriously because the tone was so ominous. But really, think he's trying to be funny or silly.
That is an interesting take. Are you guys going to talk me into watching?
Rewatch it with that lens. I don't know. I'm just making this revelation now, so I have not rewatched it with that idea. But
listen,
we
guys, I don't want to spoil a joke, but I am going to because it's half in the trailer. But the priest doing the funeral at the beginning was kind of hilarious. It's like, did you just
some good laughs from the audience?
I say, I'm like, dude, bro. He's like, oh shit. I'm like, did you just hear about what happened? I guess
maybe it's a parody of Silence of the Lambs and not like trying to be Silence of the Lambs, but they told us it was going to be Silence of the Lambs.
I'm just saying, like, when you watch the priest scene in this movie, it's like, well, clear, like, that's where you're like, oh, they know what they're doing. Like, clearly this is not supposed to be taken seriously in any capacity.
Okay, I've never laughed so hard at like smash cut to funeral organ music before as I did in The Monkey, like multiple times.
Yeah,
it did more than once.
Sad music killed me.
Well, for those of us around the table who did not appreciate The Monkey, so I'll throw it back to you, Kirsten. Well, you didn't love it, I should say. What would you recommend instead of, or at least alongside The Monkey?
I mean, God, well, it's fresh on the brain now, so I'm just like literally any of the Final Destination. Well, not 4. Any of the Final Destination movies except for 4. There's a lot of, especially 3 and 5, where they've really found kind of the game of setting them up and knocking them down, and kind of like playing with your expectations. It's just like if you're trying to do the absurdist death is coming for us all type vibe, no films do it better than those movies, for sure.
Wait, is the 5th one the one with the acupuncture death scene?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Tis.
Okay,
yes.
I remember now.
That one.
That one is fun.
That one is crazy.
The one that's coming out, is it the 5th or the 6th one?
6th.
The 6th one. That's right.
One.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you guys see the trailer yet?
Oh,
it looks great.
Yeah. I'm
Great
so
timing.
excited.
I'm getting
It's bloodlines.
We're
right?
going back to 1 and 2. It feels like
that's what it seems like.
it seems like, oh, that's just actually like giving me some like.
I plan to get a tattoo this year. This movie might make me rethink that.
Oh no!
So.
The other one that I was gonna recommend that kind of feels similar tonally in that it kind of keeps you off kilter throughout the whole thing is Krampus, which is also Adam Scott.
Yeah. Just rewatched that this last Christmas season.
Yeah.
Oh, it holds up so good.
It's great.
So much fun.
It does do the whole sort of like merging in like ridiculous absurdism with like very dark tones where you're kind of like, I'm not sure, like, am I supposed to laugh or not? Or is it like, am I supposed to be like terrified? And I think the answer is both.
Yes.
And what a lovely thing to be reminded of on Christmas is that life is both terrible and objectively hilarious.
Yes. Objectively.
That's my recommend.
We're all stuck in a snow globe.
Yep.
That's the reality. Great recommend. Krampus. Hadn't considered that one. That's a great pull though. LaRon Chapman, what would you recommend alongside or instead of The Monkey?
Probably the Happy Death Day movies come to mind.
Yeah. Love those two.
1 and 2. I like both of them, honestly. I think, and then like Christopher Landon, I think has a good handle on the horror comedy component. Like for me, because I really like Freaky as well.
Yep.
So
I never caught that one, but I heard
it is fun, and it is a fun Vince Vaughn performance.
Listen,
if a teenage girl. Very fun.
If you want to get hyped for Freaky or Friday or whatever, you watch Freaky before that. Don't watch Freaky Friday 1, watch Freaky and then Freaky or Friday.
Exactly. So those, I mean, if you want to go the more serious route, then most recently, It's What's Inside is one I really enjoyed on Netflix. And then Ready or Not. Again, Radio Silence is also doing a good job of that merging of, they're more horror with comedy mixed in. Mm-hmm. So the ratio is a little bit
versus Lane, who's more comedy with the
horror mixed in. Yeah. So, but depending on the ratio, whatever the alchemy that you need to put together, like, those are some varied options. Yeah.
In an alternate reality, we'd be recommending Christopher Langdon's Scream 7, but R.I.P.
Getting that.
Yeah. Well, Brett Grimes, what would you recommend alongside The Monkey?
I think those are some great recommendations. I would also throw in Until Dawn.
Yeah.
Video game.
Okay.
Movie coming out soon.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I had
it is nothing
put that together that was the game.
Watch the trailer. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it is not the premise of the game at all.
Okay.
The only common thread is that there's Peter Stormare is in all of it.
Well, okay. I do love him.
And I don't know what he's really going to do in the movie, but he is in both the movie and the game. But I thought until the trailer, it was going to be I was like, how are they going to adapt the game? I don't get how they do it. And then the way they do it is, we're going to adapt the game mechanic, not the story. And I was like,
smart.
Cool.
So this is way different than I was expecting. Anyway, Until Dawn, we're going to talk about it later in the year.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, Until Dawn, great recommendation. Sorry,
death
Joe.
feels inevitable. And, you know, it's got some flashback, flash forward type stuff happening. And
yeah, can't wait. We'll have to talk about that one. Coming out like next month? Yeah, coming soon.
Really?
Yeah, or I guess, but for listeners tuning in mid-April, because we're recording this in advance,
It came out already.
it is coming out, I believe, like next week. I think. Yeah, can't wait. We're gonna be doing a double feature in May. We're gonna talk about both Final Destination, Bloodlines, and Until Dawn in the same episode. So,
hello from the past. I hope we're still alive.
Yeah, please God, please. This is a time capsule. Well, I'm gonna go a different direction. I think you guys have already nailed all the horror comedies. I'm gonna stick with the cursed object thought here. Recently, Talk to Me is a great one. Talk about creepy prop design. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I have one in my house from the A24 store.
Oh, my gosh.
Greg is like,
Terrifying.
get that shit.
Yeah.
You can put it on your side.
Put it in the cabinet, perhaps.
Yes, or in the trash.
And no, we will never have candles lit in the same room as
so
the hand.
ornate, though. It's nice. It holds up nice. It has the same hand, has little etchings on it. It was like $120. But it's cool. It's a cool prop.
I mean, it's a pretty incredible prop. I'd also throw out Oculus. Good little throwback. Great little movie. Gosh, totally drawn a blank.
Flanagan.
Mike Flanagan. Thank you.
Yeah,
love everything he does.
Underrated. It has a good twist. Yeah,
very underrated. I rewatched it not this past October, but last year. Year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, this thing slaps harder than I remember.
It rocks. It goes the whole time.
It does. And it doesn't pull punches. And holy cow, that ending was way bleaker than I remember. Maybe I'm getting older and more sentimental, but I was like, wowza, they weren't messing around. Oculus, though, Mike Flanagan, it's aged like a fine wine. Check it out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you do not want to be spoiled on The Monkey, go ahead and tune out now.
People die at their dinner tables. They die in their beds. They die squatting over their chamber pots. Everybody dies sooner or later. And don't worry about your death. Worry about your life.
So, I mean, I kind of laid it on the table in the spoiler-free section. I think this movie, in my opinion, has one clear idea on actually. I mean, like, there's a lot of like sub-ideas, but in terms of like themes, it is that death is going to come for all of us. You better enjoy the ride while it's happening. Whether that is your aunt dying mysteriously, your Uncle Chip dying mysteriously. You just gotta hold on to the dancing. Just remember, when people die, you do a dance. That's how you cope with it. And I thought, what better way to start the spoiler section talking about this theme by just all discussing our favorite death sequences. So, for example, I'll just say, not necessarily my favorite, but one I want to throw out there, most surprising, that pool death sequence. Did not expect that to be how she died. I mean, from the trailer, she's going to jump in, but wow, to explode like a bomb. Wowza, that was a fun time. I laughed pretty hard. So that's number one, just throwing it out of the way. Brett Grimes, what was your favorite death scene?
Okay, I have two. One isn't really a death scene, but it was how it was handled. I kind of mentioned this earlier when Hal is winding the monkey when they're kids. Bill is trying to stop him, and he doesn't. And it's immediate smash cut to his uncle's funeral and those organs.
Pretty good.
Oh my God, I laughed so hard. I think my favorite visual death, though, is probably the ant running out of the house on fire into the mailbox post. So intense.
That sequence is the one I listed that as my favorite as well, just because that's the death that keeps on giving. It's like you're in a room, she's going to die. Yep. There's 10 things that are going to kill her. How does she actually go? Oh, she lights her head on fire, which, by the way, I immediately turned to my wife. I was like, never, ever stick, sorry, I was not saying it to mansplain her. I was saying note to selves. I was like, for either of us, neither of us should ever lean down to the stove while it's turned on, ever in any context. And we both laughed about that. Then she catches on fire. And then you're like, wow, that's a crazy way to go. Oh, no, it's the for
She's
sale
not
sign.
gone yet.
She's not done. She runs around the house and lands on that for sale sign.
Yeah.
Oh, so chef's kiss. Great death sequence.
That's still in the yard later.
Yes.
Still there. It's like dripping.
Also, I like how they have that yard sale immediately before any of the relatives can come claim the belongings. Gosh, fun times. Kirsten, what was your favorite death sequence in the movie?
Man, what was my favorite death sequence in the movie? I mean, now all that I can think of is me sitting in the theater when she dives into the pool going, no, I don't know that would happen
that way.
I'm not a scientist, so I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure.
Maybe a little spark.
It probably not to get great. It'd probably cook her, but I just don't know that you'd instantly explode like that.
How much voltage are you talking about here?
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of power in that little
the human
wire.
body's pretty conductive.
I was expecting it to be. This is when we revealed this is a crossover with Night Swim, last year's January horror film.
I'm glad I didn't drag you to that one.
I liked that one. I liked Night Swim.
Oh no, that's fine. No judgment here.
I will say that one was so bad it was kind of good a little bit.
Yeah. What if Dad got addicted to pool? I'm always asking myself.
What dad hasn't been addicted to pool? Come on. Yeah, come on.
God, someone jogged my memory. I'm trying to think of other deaths besides the
bees. The bees.
Oh, the bees. The bees was pretty good because you are kind of left there hanging, wondering for a long time. Like, okay, when's it gonna? We see it. We see the bees.
Yeah.
That one was a lot of fun.
What about those cheerleaders at the end of the bus?
The cheerleaders thing was pretty funny.
Cheerleaders were really good.
Yeah.
They drove that thing around LA, I guess.
That's like what the very the very last thing that happened.
Right after the pale white horse, the death on the pale white horse walks across the way, and then it's just a bus full of dead cheerleaders.
We're at that point in the film, you're like, we're just fully out here. We're just everything is gone off the rails. I'll go with the bees. That was a really good setup.
I feel like that was probably the most like air quotes final destination one. In that you arrive, it sets it up. Clearly, you're like waiting for it to happen, and even when the death does happen, it's very funny and gory and silly.
Insane.
LaRon Chapman, what was your pick for favorite?
Yeah, I wrote down Burning Ant and The Bees. So those are definitely the highlights for me. I think I'll give it to The Bees just because of how just ridiculous
not The Bees.
It is. And
Bees!
And the extent
where was Henry Winkler?
In the extent to which that happens, I'm like, okay, all right. Again, if I'd known that this movie that I was watching, I might have been a little more locked in. But that, to me, thinking of what kind of movie it is tonally, works pretty well. So
I also like the first kill.
The intestines with the harpoon.
Yes. Yeah.
Just because that was kind of what set the whole stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought that was a good one. Again, I actually had no idea that Adam Scott was anywhere near this movie. So, and right now Severance is on. Me and my wife we watched Severance that morning and then went to the theater and saw it. And we're like, whoa, crossover.
That guy did.
Yeah, I love all that stuff. I think we've gotten the best ones. I would have liked to have seen more deaths. I don't know what that says about me, but
you're the monkey. You're the monkey.
I is the monkey. So how do you guys think tonally the film addresses the idea of randomness for death? I don't know. We've kind of talked about it in spoiler-free section. Any thoughts on we want to kind of put a pin in it, like in terms of how the absurdist comedy sort of lends itself to the idea that we're all going to die randomly?
I feel like something I kind of jotted down in my notes, the way it's kind of dealing with death, it's like is death, this inevitable consequence of living, like just a fact of life, or is there some cruel, maniacal entity that's pulling the strings for their own sick amusement? And and that skewers all religion, but it's just it at least asks that question, which I appreciate. In ways that I don't think the Final Destination movies have any kind of conversation about, that it's just death for fun's sake. Like we're watching people die in fun ways. Because
they were supposed to die already.
Apparently. So
they have a debt to pay to death.
I feel like there's this kind of a gleeful abandon though with the randomness of it all. And I think it kind of like, it does kind of just show you that, there's not this overarching meaning or purpose or intent behind all of it. Maybe things just happen at random, like they do, like they're happening right now. Some things probably because of incompetence, but also because, you just don't know age wise, where you're going to be and how terrible it's going to be, or if you're going to go peacefully in your sleep.
I will say there is something, and maybe it's more appealing to me now. What would seem cynical in other times does provide that weird sense of comfort in terms of the absurdist humor. And we're not here to talk, we're here to generally escape from reality when we talk about movies, even horror movies. But things are kind of crazy going on right now, just in general in the world. And I think that's pretty obvious to most people who literally turn on a screen anywhere. Things are getting kind of crazy. And the idea that death is random and there's nothing we can do about it, and like it's the best we can do is laugh it off, is weirdly comforting in a time like this. Whereas maybe if this movie had come out a year ago, I would have felt slightly different. I'm like, well, that's just too mean.
Yeah, it's just too cynical.
It's too cynical.
Yeah,
but like right now, like, well, this crazy shit's gonna happen.
Add some levity to the terrible.
Just the best you can do is laugh at it. In some ways, I'm not saying that's necessarily the right position to take about modern events, but in terms of the sorts of humor, it kind of landed with me a little differently than maybe perhaps would have. I know, Brett, any thoughts on your side about how this film addresses the tone sort of addresses the idea of death being random?
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it. It can feel cruel, meaningless. Sometimes the only way you can make sense of something like that is to laugh at it, to just embrace the fact that it is cruel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that there's nothing much we can do about it.
Nothing much you can do.
You can live in a bunker under the earth, but then are you living?
Sometimes your reaction is just like the priest. You walk in to do the funeral, you're like, oh shit, oh fuck, what happened? Like, well, we're here. I guess I gotta laugh about it.
Yeah. I will say that the Final Destination movies did set me up for anytime I go into a hardware store or any of those places, I'm like, ooh,
what could happen?
What could happen? Weirdly, my brain thinks of every sharp object thing that is like, get away from that chandelier.
Yeah, just keep a healthy distance away from any deadly weapon. Yeah.
And his brother's got all of those like the booby traps and everything set up whenever you get to the house. It's just like a million ways to die.
We haven't talked about that, actually.
Yeah.
The evil Theo James twin. I gotta say, hats off to Theo James. Again, the absurd is, I was wondering whenever we see the other brother as an adult, I'm like, what is he going to be like? Wait, because obviously he's crazy to some degree, but like, no, he's actually like a murderer.
He's like death cult.
Yes, death cult.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's been
him and Robert
cultified
Pattinson
by
today.
the monkeys.
Yeah, it's true.
Him and Robert Pattinson with the duality of the good versus, interesting.
Well, it's funny because he's the bully the whole time.
Yeah,
it's funny he just really wants his
pairing.
brother to die, even though his brother's literally done nothing.
Nothing. Yeah,
It's so funny. It's so funny for him to be like, well, yeah, you killed our mom, or you killed my mom.
Yeah.
He's just like, my mom also.
died.
Same mom.
Bro, we have that in common.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I didn't really think about it like that.
Very dumb. Kirsten, anything you want to add about the tone and how it addresses the theme there of random death?
I mean, that is kind of the reason that I wanted to bring up the whole Anthony Perkins' mom dying horribly and like a way, like imagine. I don't know. That is this film feels very much like him working through the absurdity of how he lost.
You're coming up on a significant anniversary of your dad's death, and that already has its own baggage with it.
Exactly.
And then, and by the way, my mom was on a plane that flew into the Twin Towers.
Yes.
And you're just like, what?
Yes.
That's
so I
crazy.
think that's very much him reconciling with. I hope Oz Perkins got more out of this movie than I did.
Yeah.
I hope
it's a very expensive therapy session that we all witnessed.
I was going to say, we all deal with grief differently, guys.
Exactly.
And if you're Osgood Perkins and you make a $10 million movie.
Well, and I mean, like, my favorite conversation in that entire script is whenever he's, out on the bench talking to his mom, and she's like, yeah, we're all going to go. Some of us, quietly in our beds, and some of us horribly in unimaginable ways. And she's like saying it in this very comforting tone that it's like she's saying horrible, horrible things. That was really my favorite, like, kind of moment, honestly, in the whole movie. Because it's like doing this fun thing with it being like touching. And this is, like her attempt to comfort him, but also she's doing kind of a, hilariously bad job.
Yeah. Life lessons.
I think that's very, I think that feels very realistic. Like, it's just like, we're just all out here being people experiencing things. And
she was great.
She was fantastic.
Tatiana is always
Tatiana
fantastic.
Maslany.
She is getting everything she does.
But I mean, tonally, this feels very much like that. I think that makes the whole film kind of come together for me, just like mentally. But yeah, whether or not that's a success for you is kind of up for grabs.
I would say the thesis of this movie is I look up and see my boy, Peter Baelish, such a beloved Game of Thrones character by no one except for me. And I don't even want to admit it that I love him, but he's a great character. Very bad person. Very awful, terrible, scum of the earth person. Really interesting to watch on screen, especially when played by Aidan Gillen. Once said on Game of Thrones, I believe it was in season 4, people die in their beds, people die in their chambers, people die squatting over their chamber pots. Everybody dies sometime. And that is the movie.
There you go.
Yeah.
So true.
Let's wrap up just by talking about Oz Perkins a little more. We already addressed this a little bit in the spoiler free section, but like, listen, whether we like it or not, sounds like some of us are like being drugged into liking him, maybe. I mean, Longlegs was Neon's biggest movie of all time, $126.9 million. The Monkey, as I said, is a $10 to $11 million movie. That as of the middle of March has already grossed $53.5 million. By the time listeners are hearing this, it's going to be more than that.
Wow.
So whether or not you like the movies, people are showing up. Now, I think Kirsten brought up a great point. It's just is it because we haven't caught on to the fact that we don't like him yet? Or are we going to be stuck with Oz Perkins movies for the next 10 years because he's got kind of developing a following? What do we make of this director's specific flavor of horror as seen in both The Monkey or Longlegs? What is it about this guy that we think is both appealing and maybe really stinking frustrating?
I mean, I think it illustrates that he's at least interested in more than one kind of horror, you know?
Very true.
Sure.
And that he's willing to take ballsy risks with genre films. And you know what? We can use that shake up. You know, my feelings about this movie aside, like, I'm not mad at the swing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not mad that it gave me a different iteration, you know, of the kind of paint by numbers horror that we kind of see, you know, year round. So it at least means that he has a interesting, you know, perspective and sensibility, you know, for the genre that I think, you know, at maybe one point for me will work all together, you know, in one space, you know, because I think Longlegs is like 2/3 of a good movie.
Yeah.
And then 1/3 of a whimper. And then this one for me is just, you know, maybe just scattered all over the place. There's individual moments I like, but he's an interesting filmmaker to say the least.
Yeah. Kirsten, what are you thinking about Oz Perkins? Is this being your warmest experience with the director?
So I also have tried. I've been trying to get on board with Oz Perkins since The Blackcoat's Daughter. And a lot of what he does, I think that he is very good at setting a specific tone. I think he knows what he's going for tonally. I think he knows what he's going for aesthetically. But I think that unfortunately a lot of his, especially his more self-serious stuff, like The Blackcoat's Daughter, like Hansel and Gretel, or like Gretel and Hansel, I think it just kind of falls flat, leaning boring for me. Whereas his later stuff has at least been more entertaining for me. But I mean, God, at the end of the day, I do kind of just leave his movies being like, is there not someone who's not the child of, you know, like an extremely like legendary actor who maybe has better execution or ideas that we could be giving a shot at some of this stuff? Not to, you know, throw the Nepo baby allegations around, but I think it's worth bringing up at least.
It's definitely a reality.
It is.
No doubt about it.
It is.
I mean, you know, you get your project in front of the right people way faster when you're related to someone famous, and that's just the reality.
And there's a question of how much of our enjoyment of his projects is leaning on that tertiary record, you know what I mean? That relationship to this famous icon. Because without his name recognition, would we care as much? I don't know. Like if you remove that element, he's just a filmmaker that's making a movie. How much do we like these movies?
I still think he's interesting. I think he's an interesting filmmaker because he's got an aesthetic. He's got a thing he's going for. Here's what I'm looking at.
He does have a thing he's going for.
Here's what I'm looking at though. And sorry, Brett, I want to pass to you. He's written almost all of his scripts. And I would argue in the 3 of his movies I've seen, the weakness is always the script. I think he's a terrific director.
I'm not going to accuse him of not doing work, you know?
But not everyone, there's this weird thing, like if you can be a writer, director, a Chris Nolan or Quentin Tarantino, yeah, sure. We all agree. Those are like the GOATs. Like, but also not every director needs to also be a writer. Not every writer needs to be a director. And in this case, I feel like it's very clear that at minimum, he should be co-writing his scripts.
I would be very interested to see what he did with someone else's script.
Yep. I mean,
I wonder if it wouldn't be more successful still.
I agree. I mean, he didn't write Gretel and Hansel. However, literally everything else we've mentioned, he has also written. So all I'm saying is in the future, and it doesn't look like he wrote Keeper, which is his next film. I'm not sure how that's going to play out.
Interesting.
I would love to see what he does with a good script from someone else, or bare minimum, if it's going to be his idea, bring in a co-writer to at least give it a workshop or pass on top of his original script. That's just my take, because I think as a director, I mean, Longlegs I thought was a home run on the director. On the
directing aspect.
The directing aspect of it. It was really for me. It was a script problem, and maybe for some people a Nick Cage problem. It wasn't for me, but yeah, like if that movie just had a better writer coming in, fix the last act,
tie up some of the loose ends. Maybe fix the twist. God, that is a film ruiner for me.
It didn't ruin the film for me, but it definitely. I thought I was watching a borderline masterpiece. Brought it down to that was fine, I guess.
And a bloated Twilight Zone episode. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. Brett, what do you make of Oz Perkins as a director?
Talking about stuff he's written, I know Pretty Thing and The Monkey were both adaptations.
Yeah,
that's true. I'm curious if he'll continue down that road or if he'll push for more original material. I personally hope that his success with these a little bit more out there and a little bit more funny movies doesn't take away from him still going back and doing something really slow burn, really creepy, because I did like Black Coat's Daughter and Pretty Thing quite a bit. I mean, I thought they had really interesting tone. Yes, they were slow. Yes, they take a long time to develop, but in the end, they kind of scared me.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Yeah. No, I think that's well said. Well, guys, we've talked a lot about horror today. I would say, just to put a pin in it, seems like it's been a weird start to horror for the year, right?
But good, right? I mean, I like seeing stuff that's not just straight horror.
I like most of this stuff was pretty solid down the middle for me, for the most part. But there's not really been like a strong, like traditional, I'm scared horror. It's been a lot of, it's got some fun horror elements in it. But so just different. I don't know. LaRon, what do you think about horror so far this year?
Yeah, I would say, it's a mixed bag, garden variety kind of, start to the year. But I'm hopeful, that we have a lot more fun offerings coming by some named directors that I'll be very excited for. Ryan Coogler being one of them. I'm very
Sinners.
So excited. The 90s Baby and Me is very happy for I Know You Did Last Summer sequel that we do not need, but I want to see what the hell they're going to do with it.
Yes, we do.
So that's interesting.
We got another Final Destination coming up soon. We mentioned we've got that adaptation, the adaptation of the Before Dawn, Until Dawn. I'm really curious about that one. We've got 28 Years Later.
Oh, yeah.
And I know it's a zombie film, and zombie films often get lumped into their own subgenre, but that is... The trailer is definitely selling it as a very intense zombie horror movie.
This might just be a nice little warm up to, maybe even stronger offerings as the year go on. But I do think of the ones we've reviewed here, there's a handful of these I like quite a bit. So,
Kirsten, any closing thoughts on the horror of 2025 so far that you've seen?
I am excited for more. I haven't gotten out to see as much stuff as I really wanted to. But
it's been a slow. I will say it's been a slow start to the
starting.
year.
Yeah, for sure. I also January baby am a fan of going out and seeing whatever trash there is in the cinema in January.
Sometimes there's some good shit there.
Sometimes there is. But I kind of missed out a little bit this year. So.
Did you? Wolfman ?
I guess I didn't, honestly. Yeah, for my money's worth, here's what you all have convinced me to see and to not see. I still want to check out Hard Eyes. I'm now like way less interested in hitting Presence, unfortunately.
Fair.
And then Wolfman,
probably avoid that one.
I already was kind of like bracing myself to probably not catch that one, because one of the worst sins you can commit to a movie, like to a horror movie, is just being too boring to care. Like,
watch the first 15 minutes and just turn it off. It's a good little short film in and of
Okay.
itself.
Like pretend the opening is a short film and there's no other film.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then just quit.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's a
I
cool
can do
proof
that.
of concept that could have made a cool Wolfman movie.
Yeah.
Too bad they didn't make it. Yeah. Well, Brett, bring us home here. Any closing thoughts on horror so far this year?
Yeah, it's an interesting time of the year for releases. As we've said, studios kind of offload a lot of stuff early in the year. Horror is one of those things that studios just have a bunch of because it's cheap to make and people watch it. But I thought it was a pretty solid start so far. I mean, I didn't love all these movies, but I was glad to see them. I'm glad to see them being made. I'm glad to see them being put out. Really looking forward to Sinners.
Yeah.
And I'm also looking forward to those weird hidden indie gems that I'll stumble across on Shudder during the year, and that will eventually blow up.
Shudder is a treasure trove of horror at all times.
Oh, yeah.
They get classics in there sometimes. They got new stuff you haven't heard of, stuff from other countries. Yeah. If you're a horror fan, I mean, I accidentally subscribed for a year last year, and I'm not going to cancel it when it renews this year. I'll put it that way.
Yep.
So, all right, listeners. Well, that is our look back at horror in 2024 so far this year. A lot of exciting things coming up. Speaking of Sinners, that is going to be our next review coming in 2 weeks, if all is planned, releasing over Easter weekend this year. So this Easter weekend, you get to see 2 Michael B. Jordans for the price of one. You get to see one rise from the dead. Maybe
the duality of the man, third actor, the 2 characters. Okay, cool.
Ah, man.
Let's go.
It's also WrestleMania weekend. And it's also 420. What a synergy of a confluence of random things in the world happening on April 20th this year. One of them being the Sunday following the release of Sinners. Can't wait. Brett Grimes. Hey, man. Thanks so much for coming to hang out and talking horror movies.
Thank you guys so much. This is a blast.
So you do a thing with Grind Planet. Tell our listeners a little about it and maybe how they can keep up with you and all the cool things you're doing.
Sure. I'll plug a few things real quick.
Yeah.
Grind Planet, as you mentioned, is a double feature movie club that I'm a co-host of. We focus on genre films. It's absolutely free. We have a great space. We have a large screen, new sound system. We have tons of snacks, popcorns, drinks, giveaways. Like I said, it's all free. All you need to do is bring a chair and show up. It's in a big communal space. You can get in touch with me and in touch with Grind Planet at canyou@survivegrindplanet.com. So it's Can You Survive Grind Planet, but there's an at thrown in there. So canyou@survivegrindplanet.com. You have to survive the double feature, right? Not everyone can make it.
It's always a blast. I haven't made it through all. I think I've got probably like around an 80% survival rate so far. Yeah, maybe.
That's not bad.
75, 80. Good. There's a couple I missed the first one and show up late, or I've had to duck out, but I try to always make it because you guys do a great job programming these. Usually the first one is a good, like you bait someone, you're like, hey, friend, you like this thing, you should come watch it. And then the second one's always either it's either one that's like a definitive classic, like cult classic, or a movie that people haven't seen. You're like, ooh, I got to stick around to watch the second one. So,
yes, yeah, definitely. That's kind of the trick that we try and pull sometimes is we like to show something that people probably haven't seen, maybe never even heard of, and then something that either people love or, I don't know. So
we're maybe talking around it, like what are some examples? So you recently did a Punch Nazis in the Face double feature marathon. Sadly, I missed the first one, but I got to watch Sisu, which was the second feature for the first time with the crowd. And boy, howdy, that was the crowd to watch it with. Like, and I'd never seen it before. Like, you're just into it. You're vibing with the movie. Before that, in the first movie was the Overlord. Yeah. So that was a recent double feature. You did like one that was Death. What was it? You did a Death Race double feature once with.
that was our very first one. That was Death Race 2000. And we did the first of the like baby cart movies, Lone Wolf and Cub.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Sort of Vengeance, maybe.
You did a Jalo Horror Night not too long ago. Yeah. So you guys are keeping it fresh. Yeah, keeping it fresh.
Animal Attack movies.
Mm-hmm.
Creature feature. Though, yeah, they did it was
Crawl
and the aquatic horror.
Crawl and then Piranha 3D.
Piranha 3D, yeah.
That was fun. That was really fun. May 3rd is our next one, and it's Stuart Gordon's Fortress, which is a futuristic prison escape movie, and we're following that up with 2012's Dread. So we've got kind of bad futures, which, they're on the rise right now.
They're on the rise right now.
We had Killing Nazis last time, bad futures this time. It's a very topical time at Grind Planet.
Well, hey, listeners, I just gotta say, firstly, I think Grind Planet's great. You guys also just want to, it sort of started as like a fun thing you guys did where you just bought like a screen and, got some people to bring some lawn chairs into the space. And it was always fun because it kind of had that like drive-in, like midnight club sort of thing. But you guys have really invested in the production, like in terms of the AV setup. So now you have a really awesome projector. You guys recently wrote some new sound. So listen, if you're into like this sort of like underground, like cult classic, like midnight feature type film experience with people who are
really into it.
Yeah, this is the place for you. Make sure to hit up Brett, subscribe to the email. You guys also have a great email system reminding people when it's coming up. Check it out there, listeners. You won't regret it.
We'd love to have you. Yeah.
Kirsten Thurgelson, where can people keep up with you and all the things you're doing online?
Yes. So you can find me. You can find me on Letterboxd. I'm at Cranston over there, Kranstin. Come follow me. Check out my reviews over there. And then I'm also co-hosting Femme Film, which is a monthly female-directed picture that we show at Oklahoma Contemporary if you're local. And then I'm also I am hosting Silent Sundays over at Rodeo.
Nice.
With my good friend Brandon Malone, who live scores silent movies on the last Sunday of every month.
Wow.
So come check those out so that they keep letting us do them. I don't know because since we're recording this early, I don't know what we have coming up next because we're doing Haxan this month, but this won't make it out in time for that.
It's a surprise feature.
It's a surprise.
Yes.
Yep. So yeah, stay tuned. Check out the Rodeo website and see what we've got in store for you over there.
Awesome. Well, keep up the awesome work. And Femme Film, that's also with friend of the show, Paris Burse,
Paris
right?
Burse, yeah. She is. Mm-hmm.
What a combo, I gotta say. Man, I haven't made it out to one of those yet, and I need to because that sounds like a fun time.
It's a lot of fun.
I've seen some of the films you guys have been programming in there. Great picks.
Yep.
Laurent Chapman, where can people follow you online?
Yeah, I came to a very early version of that. The film. I was Bound, which is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. But
yes.
Wachowski siblings, you would, yes, if you like The Matrix, you'll like these maybe even a little more. You can follow me on the Cinematropolis here for more episodes and my film column, Real Insights with Laurent Chapman, or you can follow my Letterboxd reviews under Black_Cinna_man. And I need to follow you. Because now I love finding Letterboxd fans.
I know I sound like I'm in a cult when I sell Letterboxd, but like if you're an avid movie watcher, like Letterboxd is the place. It's like the social media channel for you. You keep track of all your movies. You're like, oh, you're a cool movie person. You're on Letterboxd. Let's connect. And then all of a sudden, you guys both write amazing reviews. You don't follow each other. Now you do. And you're
get off that awful X website.
Seriously, Letterboxd is the place to be. Check it out. I wish they would sponsor us, please. But no, you can follow me on Letterboxd and all social media at C Masters Talk. That's letter C Masters Talk. Or as Laurent said, doing all the things over at thecinematropolis.com. Hey, I hope you guys got this episode on time. If all goes well, this has dropped while I am in the island nation of Japan. And if Sinners doesn't happen, I just want to record an audio. It's because I never came back.
Yeah, just stay there. Just stay there. Weirdly, I think it'll be better and safer there. I say that.
No, you're not wrong. But assuming all goes as planned, you can catch us in 2 weeks when we return with our Resurrection Story movie of Easter 2025, Sinners, from director Michael Coogler.
Do you think that was intentional? Wow. I think that was intentional.
I think so.
Sinners on Sunday, on the
Easter Sunday.
Seems a little.
It's also 420, by the way. Yeah.
Vampires come back from the dead.
Resurrections.
Anyway, listeners, we'll catch you again next time.